Hey Harold, good evening.
Ken, g'day. Nigel, how you going?
I'm just going to unmute and then crunch at you.
Yep, I'm here.
Who is M6EHMG capital IB5?
No.
There you go.
Me, I'm Martina Bovell. I'm not sure why I've got that username, but it's probably something to do with the link to Zoom.
That's all right. You can update your name if you want, but I think at the top of your little window, if you click the little blue dot thing, you should have an option to rename. But
yeah, no. Oh, hang on, I might be able to gallery. Not that I can see, but maybe there's more rename. There we go. Yep.
Excellent.
There we go. Done.
Marvelous, thank you. Because my well-known vice is that I'm terrible with names. So one of the really great things about Zoom is that everyone's got their name on it, so you can't forget.
I don't think I'll be doing much talking though. I've had my car for 5 weeks now. It hasn't had much of a run with the lockdown, but slowly getting used to it. Sometimes it does some strange things, so I'm really just here listening to you all and see what you talk about.
Yeah.
So you're Harold.
Yes.
Yeah, Harold. Who's Ken? Which one?
I'm me. That's me. I'm Ken.
I'm Ken. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yes. And so Nigel. Yeah, of course. The names.
And we got Nigel, and Peter is working out his microphone, and so we're still a bit early. I was hoping to have a chance to sneak some white wine in before everyone arrived, but no. Cheers.
Damn,
are you drinking Corona, Harold?
Yes, I am. Unfortunately,
there's something just wrong about drinking Corona. Well, there's something wrong about drinking Corona anyway, because it's a terrible beer. But particularly at the moment, it just seems like the wrong thing to do.
I feel like it's a bit of inoculation, just personally. So the more Corona I can get into me, the less of the other one I will.
That's okay. Dear.
But Martina, it's good that you're here, because one of the points of this casual meetup is we can discuss anything you like. So if there's anything any burning questions you've got about your car or whatever, we're happy to sort of go through that. So especially when other people have joined, there'll be plenty of people like yourself who have just gotten their cars and itching to use them.
Yeah, I mean, something yesterday, it was not raining. I'd worked out how to work the windscreen wipers, and then I'm driving home and it's not raining, dry as a bone, and the wipers start going. So I'm thinking, hello. So yes. I had to turn them off on manual. So they're off on manual now.
So what sort of car have you got?
Little things like that you think, what the, why did that happen? I've got a 3 standard, just your basic.
Yep.
Girls'
Don't
car.
worry, that's what I've got.
Girls' car. I'm certainly not interested in getting a Cybertruck.
That's funny. I was having a conversation about the Cybertruck today, and we went through the whole there seems to be a series of emotions with the Cybertruck. There's the initial launch, and everyone went, oh my God, what is that? And no one will buy that. And then about 8 hours later, we're all going, I've placed a reservation. That seems to Harold. Yeah. And so my hand disappears when I get it out of me, but that's my car in artsy black and white. I've got a 3-year-old Model S, which I love. But of course, your standard range Model 3 already has more range than my car, or Rob's car, or Harold's car. So you've launched forward from where we are. From my perspective, I'm waiting for the Model Y, because I really want one of those as my next Tesla. I don't know where everyone else is at. Hi, Rochelle.
Hey, how you going?
Ken, how do you change names?
If you in the top right of your little window, there's a blue triple dot under rename. There's a rename.
I got mine from next to my name. There's a mute and then a more with a little arrow.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Got more, yeah.
Okay, there we go. That'll make it easier.
Hi, Martin.
Martin, how you going?
Hi, Martin.
We've got a Peter as well.
Go, Peter. And Rod. And Rob, who is XAEA12, which Rob's going to explain to us what that actually means.
It's the baby.
The baby that Elon needed. You're on mute, Rob. I'll unmute you.
We don't unmute. Just click the top right.
You can unmute him, Harold. You're the boss.
Yeah, I'll unmute him.
Yes.
There we go. And
I'm unmuted.
There you go.
Excellent. Because I'm sure, Rob, that you'll have things to say over the course of the evening.
I might do, yeah. I'm just happy to listen in. This is good.
G'day, Kim and Brian.
Look at that.
Brian and Kim are muted.
Yeah, we can just unmute
That's
until it gets too noisy, and then we'll probably have to start muting again, but that's cool.
Until I keep eating these yummy nuts. I'm going to try not to crunch at you.
All right, it's got a few more minutes. There should be a few more people coming.
Yeah.
So, Rob, did you finish your fence?
No, I just got some stuff prepared for tomorrow when it's less windy. Is Martin?
Yes.
Heidi.
G'day, Andrew. Oh.
Hey, how you going?
Good.
Hi, Andrew, Peter.
Hi.
The good thing is we don't need to do introductions because we can see who everyone is. That was a big delay then. Someone's got a shocking delay. That's cool.
Hi, Brian.
Well, we're up to 12.
I assume I'm the only Brian, so yeah, hello.
That's right. Is it all right if we call you Bruce?
Yeah, it's fine.
So far, we haven't got any double ups, have we? It's quite nice. It's very convenient. Everyone's got a different name. It's very convenient.
I'm looking at these backgrounds. There's obviously a way to do a background here, is there?
Yeah, you
There
can.
is. You can load in a picture in Zoom and set it up as your virtual background. I don't have a green screen, so sometimes weird things happen. Bits of me disappear, but
You're just blending with your screen.
yeah. But it's more important that you can see my arty black and white photo of my car than me. You know, it's the star here.
Yes, please do explain how you took that photo, Ken.
Oh, no, are you trying to embarrass me because I'm a hipster and I shot it on film? And,
Yes, of course.
Hi, John.
And developed it myself and
Hi, Trevor.
and
Hi, how you going?
Good, thank you.
That's good. Like the background, Harold?
Yeah, thanks, Trev. I've actually got a better one, but it's a bit.
Oh yeah.
That's just to remind me of something I'm not going to get for another 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Cool.
Brian's
Oh,
Oh.
sorry.
all right.
Harold, can you see everyone, can you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go to gallery
Gallery
view
view.
or speaker view, Martin.
Okay.
So, yeah,
This is-
gallery
this
view will show everyone up to probably about 25, depending on your computer.
It's just got participants.
Brian.
I can't see any. Oh, okay.
Usually a button up in the top
Yeah,
right
yeah.
corner.
Hey
Yeah,
guys.
thanks,
Hi Richard, how are you? I'm good. How are you all?
Ah,
Going well.
Whereabouts are you at the moment, Richard?
Oh, well, at home, South Frio.
Ah, nice.
Yes, we're on 28 and 28 now, so I'm home for nearly a month.
Wow. How's that working for you?
Oh, well, this bit's great. This is glorious. Being at work for nearly a month is rubbish.
Yes. Do you guys, do you get the finger prick test, or are you doing the up nose yet? Do you know?
I don't know. We're getting tests the day before we fly back up. So yeah, I'm about 3 weeks away from that. So
yeah, cool.
Yeah, I'll find out when I get there.
Yeah. Last email I got was the Roy Hill's doing the nose tests.
Went a bit closer.
Yep. But I did the finger prick test the other day for Rio. So.
Oh right, okay.
Everyone's doing their own thing.
Of course.
Hello,
So
Joe.
How many have we got online?
I'm seeing 16.
I can only see
Yes.
8 on my screen.
Oh, he's upside down.
Right. Oh,
Yeah, we've got 16. Some computers or iPads or devices will do less. I think some can do up to 49, but a lot
yeah,
of them can't.
I tried to do this on my laptop, but it asked me to upgrade drivers and pay $9.95 and
Too hard.
bugger that. So my iPad just got straight in.
Yeah, there is a way.
Anyway, Rod, I can speak to Rod about that later. He can fill me in on the mechanics.
Yeah, they might have muted themselves. Oh, yeah, I think. Ken, you're happy to be muted? We don't need to unmute you.
No, I muted myself so that no one had to hear me crunching on my late dinner. You know, so.
One pro tip is if you are muted, you can just press your space bar if you've got one, and that'll temporarily unmute you, and then you can just like let go of it, and it'll remute if you prefer doing that.
Gee, we should do this at future meetings, Harold. We just mute. If you don't want to hear anyone talk, just mute them.
Yeah, just flick them off.
Good one.
Good evening, everybody.
Stefan.
Hey, Stephen, you're a floating head over the earth.
Yeah, I know. I did that in the last meeting. I didn't know how to reverse it. But you can choose your background somewhere. Anyway, it's complicated changes. So how is everybody?
Well,
that's good.
The dog is being.
Yeah, pretty good. You know, we're just having strange Zoom meetings instead of the real thing, but it's all good.
The only way to go at the moment.
Yes, but we are doing spectacularly well. 7 days in a row, no positives.
Now, is anybody of you guys over 65?
Yes, I am.
Just have to turn this up a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, just something I didn't know. I've got the shingles at the moment, which is pretty unpleasant. And I've just recently learned that, talking to other people, that you can be vaccinated against shingles.
Yes, you can.
yes, there is a shingles vaccine.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't have a clue. Anyway, and it's for free actually. If you're over 65, it's free. So take advantage of it because it's not very nice.
Yes, dead right, Stephen. And the biggest issue is probably most of us in this room have had chickenpox, so we're all going to get it one day.
Exactly. Yeah,
Joseph, how you going?
If you've had shingles, can you get it back again?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, my boss gets about every 6 months. It's not
Oh,
fun.
okay. Maybe I should.
Don't tell me that.
Yes, I've had it. It was bloody awful. So,
Yeah.
for you, Stefan.
So how long did the pain carry on for?
It takes about 6 weeks until you get back to half normal, and it's probably about 9 months before you're really normal. It's awful, bloody awful.
Yep, same as my boss.
I thought I was unlucky after 2 weeks. I thought, why isn't the pain gone away? Because the rest of the stuff has gone. I had that antiviral treatment. But the doctor tells me, unless it's more than 3 months, don't worry, that's normal.
It's nearly as painful as trying to charge a Model 3 on third-party chargers. Nearly. Not quite as bad.
I had a very strange experience the other day where I thought, oh my God, what's wrong with this car? I was coming up the Mundaring-Weir Road towards Kalamunda, and the last bit is a squiggly sort of bit that comes up out of the valley there. And suddenly in a corner, in a turn, with ditches on one side and trees on the other, suddenly I put my foot on the accelerator and nothing happened. The car came to a stop and started rolling backwards. And I thought, oh my God. Anyway, it appears now, Harold told me what I probably did, because I was mucking around with the lever on the right of the steering wheel, going from cruise control to autopilot and so on. And I must have somehow touched it in a way that I'd gone to neutral. And there I was with no power in a tight corner with nowhere to go left or right, and cars behind me. It only took probably less than a minute until I mucked around and flicked the lever and did various things, and suddenly it was going again. But that was what must have happened. I inadvertently put it to neutral. And then, it's like nothing works anymore, and it even rolls backwards. It's freely rolling, isn't it? That was pretty nasty, but I'll be careful now not to do that. But it can happen.
Yeah, I've done that once before, Stephen, in the Model S. Got confused because the indicators and the transmission stalk are on sort of the opposite side to what I'm used to, and I bumped it thinking I was pressing the indicator, and I was turning right. Cars were coming towards me. I realised what I did, but I had to remember to put my foot on the brake to get it back into drive, and then I got out of the way. But it was a bit nerve-wracking for those few seconds.
But it was because, there was nowhere to go. I thought, my God, if I can't fix this, what do I do? It's the most awkward place.
Yeah.
Who hasn't done it? Who hasn't done it? So what's the agenda, Harold?
Oh.
You're muted.
You're on mute, Harold.
Sorry, that was a beginning mistake. I'm just going to unmute myself. It's a pretty open agenda. Like we've got quite a few new members who are very new to their cars, so we could sort of have this open sort of forum where, for instance, let me see. One of the pro tips that's going to come up later, soon, when our internal borders are open, is people with Model 3s are going to find it difficult to charge at all the DC chargers, the Control RAC electric highway chargers. So it's probably good that everyone knows and gets a heads up that you're not going to be able to charge on DC, and you're going to have to use the AC part instead. So I guess that's a good thing to sort of be aware of. That you don't get stuck or relying on it or presume it's going to work when it actually doesn't. It is on PlugShare, which is another pro tip if anyone hasn't got PlugShare as an app. Sorry, I'm just going to have to unmute. So mute everyone.
Yeah, that's good.
That's better. Yeah, someone's got feedback now.
Okay. Sorry about that. But yeah, feel free when you want to talk, just unmute yourselves. But someone's got echo. But yeah, it's on PlugShare. PlugShare is a vital tool to use. It's an app that you get on your smartphone, or you can also just use the website version, which is just plugshare.com. Make sure you set your filters, which we could actually do that. I'll just share that screen.
While you're doing that, Harold, I've charged my Model 3 at Dunsborough on the Chatamo.
Yes.
So what's changed?
Okay, so Dunsborough, let me just put the filter. So I'll just show the fast DC.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, well, we've got supercharger, but I mean, we can't obviously use any of these at the moment. You said Dunsborough. Yes,
Yep.
that's got a, I think that one was the one with the smashed. Yeah, you've got the smashed Type 2.
Yeah, the Type. Yep.
But the issue there is, of course, you can see here that Charge Star has basically said that all of these chargers are not compatible. Well, they're not behaving with the Model 3s, unlike many of the other electric cars, such as the Konas and Leafs and others.
I've charged there twice.
On your Model 3?
Yep.
Yes, and I was actually.
I reported it to Circuit Control, but they just were a bit curious as to why it charged.
Yes, I'm not sure if there was one stage that they had found out that if they'd set the charge rate to, I think, 25 kilowatts or less, it would work on a Model 3 many times. But as you can see on the PlugShare website, basically they've given up. They basically said that it's just not working. I don't know if you guys can read that. It might be a bit small.
Yeah, I can read it.
But yeah, basically they're basically saying that, you know, it's an artifact of the Model 3. In fact, that's not quite true, because Model S's and X's that have the CCS2 adapter, they don't work either, because I've certainly tried it on my car in Mandurah, which is the one just here. And again, that's got a low rating because it's a similar situation where they don't work on the Model 3s. Well, basically any Tesla that's not using the Chatamo adapter, which is only the old S's and X's that do that.
Yeah, that's weird.
So the problem with the Model 3 is restricted to certain build dates, or is it all of them?
It's all of them, and it's S's and X's too, Trevor. So if you upgraded your car to the CCS2 adapter, which costs about $700, then you'll be in the same boat. But obviously, I presume you have a Chatamo adapter.
Yeah, it's one of the first things I got. So yeah.
In which case that'll work. But unfortunately, there are no Chatamo adapters available for Model 3.
And you're limited to 50 kilowatts, aren't you, with those? So
yes,
most people, if they're going to spend money, would rather spend it on the CCS adapter, I imagine, if it worked.
Yes, and I believe all the Model 3 owners, you've gotten a. Oh no, you've already got CCS2. Sorry, you've already got the plug, so you can the socket, so you can plug straight in. Except you can only do that at the tritium chargers, which are they basically are the Coburn Central tritium 50 kilowatt charger, which John Edwards was responsible for having installed. There's also the UWA tritium fast charger. At the moment, it's having a couple of hassles. It's a little bit difficult to start charging. One little tip there too is that to actually get it to work, you need to register with the Rev project. They are at just Rev. Is it rev.com.au, Joseph?
therevproject.com, I believe.
Okay.
I've tried to get hold of them, but I haven't received any responses, and the site doesn't look like it's up. So I sent an email wondering if they'd actually stopped the whatever they were doing, the trial.
I registered mine probably a month ago, maybe a
Okay.
bit over. I had to go into the office.
Oh, okay. So maybe that's what I need to do. And the office is in UWA, is it?
Yeah, in the electrical engineering building.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, they're not particularly responsive to email in my experience, but if you just front up to the first floor of the electronic and engineering building, they will generally sort you out. And if you've got to use the DC charger, you need some kind of RFID card. Smart Riders work if you've got one of those. I have an old card from another charging network that works too. So anything that they can read with their machine, they can register you on.
Yeah, I use my Next Charge card for that.
Okay, so the other chargers that you can also use for this is Model 3s and basically any Tesla that doesn't have the CHAdeMO adapter is the Gwelup shopping centre. Now that one actually is going to be charging from the 14th of May. I just noticed on PlugShare. So that'll be 45 cents a kilowatt hour. And then I think that's basically it. That's the 3 odd chargers that you can basically use: the Gwelup, UWA, and Coburn Central.
The Delta at the City of Swan, is that?
That's actually, yeah, if you look at there, it's actually got, once it loads, it's only CCS1. So it's not CCS2 at this
yeah, sorry. I've used that on CHAdeMO before, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you're a Model 3, unfortunately, you can't use that.
Yeah.
Just wondering, what about? I was going to say, what about Jurien Bay and Arthur River?
Oh, sorry, Arthur River. Yes, sorry, that's the other one. That's another charger that's been kindly supplied by, supplied by John. John Edwards. I'll just bring that up. And that's Arthur River, which is a fantastic charger to drive between here or Perth and Albany. And that's at the Arthur River Roadhouse. And that's also a CHAdeMO. I think there's a better photo of it. That's also a tritium 50 kilowatt CCS2 charger.
Harold, there's also one in Collie.
Oh yes, Joseph. Thanks for that. We just quit out of that. You're right. It's just about here. Once it updates, in Collie, which again is a tritium unit. Thanks, Joseph.
Arthur River's got reduced hours. The plug share is incorrect with that one.
Yes, I believe that's true because of the
coronavirus.
Well, basically, probably because of reduced turnover, because there's very little traffic flow.
Yeah, if you scroll down a little bit, you can see the new hours in it.
Yes, there is an update. Yes, yep. And I guess sadly for us at the moment, none of us can use it unless we're on doing work-related travel or essential travel.
Couldn't use the one at Coburn, could we? We tried. You said it was.
Sorry, Brian. Sorry, you had a problem with the Coburn one.
But no, that was the shopping centre. So that's just a CHAdeMO, that one, I think. So the one that you mentioned before was the town centre or something. So we haven't tried that one.
Oh, okay.
So there's 2 over at the shopping centre at Coburn. There's one right at the shops, and then there's one over at the community centre there.
Yeah.
I think the one at the shops is it's a type 1, but if you've got a type 1 to type 2 adapter, you can use it, but you need a
an adapter. And
you need the adapter, and you need to sign up to what is it there? ChargePoint.
That's right. That's the one.
Yeah.
And the other one there you're talking about, was that the unit? That was the RAC one, was it? Sort of a bit further over. A bit
this one here is the Coburn Central one. That's not an RAC unit. That's
There is an RAC one over near near Coburn Shopping Centre though. I can't see it on that map, but
Oh, okay. What I'll do is
And you need to go on cable.
Yeah, I'll change the filters.
It's a BYO Type 2.
Yes, this one here is an untethered unit. You can actually see it there.
Yeah, and that's Rev.
Yep. And you need a Type 2 to Type 2 cable, which actually as club members you can borrow off the club for a road trip for free.
Okay. And how much would a Type 2 cable cost?
If you look at EVnomics, they're about $300.
Okay.
But as a club member, you can actually buy them for $260.
Oh, okay.
And they are 7 meters long in a carry bag.
Okay.
Harold, just having a look at my next charge invoices going back, and we've charged Maria's Model 3 there twice on the CCS2.
Yeah, right, cool, yes. It'll be interesting to see if you can actually do that again, Martin, if it'll work.
Yeah, we'll try.
Once we can go, of course.
Yeah. Did the trip all the way down the southwest with Nannup, Albany, Williams, and every location worked fine.
Yeah, cool.
Except Bridgetown.
Yes. Was that just for the...
It was just out of order. The actual equipment's just out of order. It wasn't that we couldn't, if the car wouldn't take the charge, but...
I'm guessing that once the regions get opened up, that the demand for your spare wheel and your adapters is going to be pretty heavy.
Yes, we actually have got what's the rim that you got, Ken, for us?
It's a standard aero wheel, exactly like the one in the background of Kim's image on his car. We have one of those.
Okay, perfect.
The only pro tip there is that it unfortunately won't fit on those who have performance versions of the 3.
No.
But as a club, we are looking at procuring something that will be compatible sooner than later.
The little DIY kits you can get for plugging tyres I've found to be a handy thing to keep in the front. It's probably saved me about 2 or 3 times with my S. I've never had to get an actual spare, but I've sort of plugged them at the side of the road if I've had a nail or a screw in there. So that's, if you can't get your hands on a wheel, that's a good thing to keep just in case.
I thought I'd seen on, I think it was Brian from I1 Tesla, had got, and it's purchasable in America, a small spare tyre in a carry bag that fits the performance models as well on Ys and so on. So it's got an extra bit that allows the tyre to fit over the larger size brake. I don't know how much it was.
Cool.
Yeah, I might have seen that one. It was $680 US delivered, I think, so it wasn't cheap.
No, it wasn't cheap.
We, as a club, we've actually got a spare that gummy puncture repair kit that Trev was talking about. So that's something else that you can also borrow from the club. That you can just gouge out the tech screw and then just plug in this sort of unvulcanized slug of rubber. And like you said, Trevor, that gets you out of the poo.
Most of the time, yeah. And there's, I don't know if it's standard with the cars, because I got my car secondhand, but there is actually a Tesla accessory, which is, it's a can of slime and a 12-volt compressor all in the one unit. And I've never used the slime from it, but it was in my car when I got it. So I don't know if anyone else has got one, that's good. Otherwise, I've heard they're relatively cheap from Tesla if you want a little compressor with a Tesla logo on it. I think it was less than $100.
About $75, Trevor.
Yeah, it's not too bad, is it, for the compressor and something that's sort of designed to fit in the car?
But so is it correct though that once you've used the slime that you've basically done your tyre, you couldn't get it repaired again, could you?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I've avoided it because I've heard similar things. So I just have it because it's a nice little small compressor to keep in the car, and I've I've just ignored the slime component because I think some people said something about the tire pressure sensors might get damaged by the slime. So even if you can fix the tire, you might be up for a sensor.
Yeah, according to Tesla, though, according to Tesla, the Tesla repair kit won't affect the sensors.
Oh, that's good to know.
That's on the website. So.
You say, Trevor, that it comes with a 12-volt compressor. I've actually had to do some maintenance on my car last week. I had to put some air in the tyres. Now, I've got an old Blue Tongue compressor that runs off of 12 volts, but it's got a couple of crocodile clips. Where do you plug in a 12-volt compressor in a Tesla M3?
I can't answer that on the Model 3. My compressor just goes in the cigarette lighter socket, but
on the Model 3, it goes in the front. You lift up the plastic back of it, and the standard battery's in there.
Ah, I'll go and have a look for it. Thank you. Because I had to take it to one of those petrol stations. Yeah.
I'll put it in a photo on the chat line of this group.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
Cool. Is there anything else that anyone's got any sort of questions or comments about, or pro tips?
Yeah, I've just got a question. If I was having a look on the US websites, and they have produced a fob for a Model 3, which I find really, really handy. My wife's got a fob for my car. I've got a fob for my car, but the Model 3, I've just got a card. So I'm just wondering if anyone out there has brought in a fob. I tried to reprogram one of my Model S fobs for the 3, but it wouldn't work. So, but I would dearly like to have a fob for the 3 rather than a card.
Can I just say something about those compressors? I don't know if you've ever seen them in Bunnings or where. You can get compressors which are battery driven, and you know, they're just as big as probably a little drill set which is battery driven, and they're very handy because they fit easily in the back of the car in that pocket on the left hand side there, and you can set the pressure and it'll automatically switch off when it's reached that pressure, and they're incredibly small and you know, work well. And they only cost about $40 or something like that. Just yeah, and they've got these rechargeable batteries like Ryobi, I think, have got one, and those batteries last, because you never want to pump up a whole tire. I mean, basically, you just want to get the pressure back up to what it's supposed to be, and they're really handy for that.
Yeah, cool. So, Martin, back to your transmitter. So, clearly, have you tried at the service centre to ask if they've got any?
Yes, and they haven't. Not in Australia, no.
Have they indicated when?
No. It's just not on their agenda at the moment. Not a very high priority. But there was two models produced in the US. One about 18 months ago, which wasn't all that good, and they've now reissued an updated version, which everyone's raving about. So it's just very handy, you know, because my wife drives the 3 all the time, and I've generally got to get onto my phone, then I've got to switch the car across to the Model 3 so it recognises me, or I've got to use the card. So if I had a fob, I'd just walk up and it'd automatically open.
I was wondering what the complication was. You've obviously got the 2 Teslas, so that's where the complication came.
Exactly.
Yeah. No problem with us. We've just got the one.
Yeah, so
it's certainly a question we can ask. I know it is available in the States, and I have seen it in use in the States. And you're right, there was an early version which was you have to push the button, and they released another version about 6 to 8 months ago, I think, which allows passive entry just like the Model S and X. So as you walk up, it unlocks, and you don't actually even have to press the buttons. So we can certainly chase up with Tesla. Have you spoken to Harry about it, or just service centre?
No, just the service centre. I haven't met Harry.
All right.
Yet.
I'll put that on my list of questions.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind some comments from everyone about their latest upgrade, or who has the latest updates of both vehicles. I'm still on 2028 or something like that.
Yeah, same as us.
Same with us, yeah.
I actually got the brand new one, 12 point whatever it was, this morning. I got notification and installed it. I haven't been out in it yet though.
Yeah, 12.11.1.
Yeah, 12.11.1 is in
That's
general
one.
release as of yesterday in Australia. So my Model S got it, but of course on my car it doesn't really enable anything new because I've got old autopilot hardware. But all you Model 3 owners get stop signs and traffic lights and cones and bins.
Yeah.
And
I did actually test out the viewing of the camera footage on the screen in the car this morning, and that works fine.
Yeah, that's of course the other new feature is you can review your Sentry footage on the display now rather than having to load it off, which is really nice.
Yeah, I got the update last night and took it for a run this morning and at lunchtime. Works really well. Doesn't identify giveaway signs as yet, but stoplights definitely. It worked quite well. The only issue I had was that when after I did the update, I left it in the car park at work and then came back out at lunchtime. For some reason, the system had shut down, so I had to give it a manual hard reboot in order to bring it back up again. So,
John, have you got the performance model or the full self driving?
Standard. I got full self driving with standard.
Because we updated the software yesterday and it was only 2028.3, so a bit strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, there isn't a particular fixed order for how Tesla roll these things out. The impression seems to be they randomize all the bins and you get them in some random order. Every now and again, I seem to be right at the top of the list, which I was this time around. But other times, you seem to be further down the list. It's just a bit of a lottery. There's all sorts of rumors about going in the car to the software page and mashing the advanced button a million times, and that'll call. I don't actually think any of that is true.
No, I tried that.
Mine was 31 days, and I mashed everything, and nothing worked. I even bug reported my 5.3, and that didn't help either. They came out and said no. So yeah, today it came.
Yeah, I do have one issue with my Model 3 is that for some strange reason, I keep getting a warning for the brake fluid continually popping up and then going away again, and then popping up sometime later. And I checked the fluid level and it seems to be okay. So I don't know whether that's a known problem with 3s or does anybody else have the same experience?
It was a known issue with some of the early batches that were coming out to right-hand drive countries. Because you actually need slightly more fluid based on where everything's positioned in the right-hand drive. And Tesla are only putting in the same amount of fluid as they did for the left-hand models. So, yeah, you probably have the ability to top it up if it's not quite there. If you go into the service centre, they'll top it up for you if you mention it.
Yeah, we had that problem as well. And we took it to the service centre, and that's all they did was they just topped it up. Because what was happening was the autopilot just kept on switching off every time the little yellow button came on saying you need a brake fluid. The autopilot just kept on switching off. So we took it to the centre. It took them 5 minutes, and they just topped up the brake fluid.
These changes
that
you mentioned in the latest update with recognizing red lights, that only applies to people with the full autonomous driving capability. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my understanding as well. If you the software recognizes them, and just to be clear, in Australia at this time, it doesn't do anything about it. And so even if the car has recognized a stop sign or a red light in the Australian release of the software, it won't actually react to that input. It'll just show it on the display. It's still your job to stop. They are trialing in the US at the moment a feature where basically it will you can turn on a switch and it will stop for everything, including green lights, unless you override it. But that's kind of neat because obviously if the car detects that you're approaching a traffic light, it requires your input to do something about it. And if you don't do anything, it will choose to stop. They'll roll that out internationally at some point. But yes, you need to have the full software, full self-drive package to get that.
In Australia, it does say have your red and green light, though, on the traffic light.
Also, it shows the state of the traffic lights.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, it shows the traffic light, but it doesn't do anything about it. But in the US, it will actually bring up a little prompt on the screen to say, if you don't do anything, the car will stop. And so if you look at it and it's a green light, acknowledge it's a green light and tap the accelerator, it'll continue through. If you don't touch the accelerator, it will bring the car to a halt at the light.
Yeah, there was a video on YouTube I saw this morning from I1 Tesla, and he got it and he went out and it stopped at stop signs, although it was a little bit haphazard, stopping 20 feet before and going through some of them. He said it needs a bit of work.
Yeah, it's that I've seen reports of that elsewhere as well. Its prediction of where the stop line is not entirely spot on yet in 11.1. There are some early access people running 11.5, which is apparently better, but we can't talk about that. But it's improving all the time. That's the joy of beta testing software for Tesla.
I was actually quite surprised that it worked very, very well. It doesn't handle green arrows with on model sets, but it will actually show the stop light as red for the green arrow if the arrow is red. So it actually does sort of work, but it looks quite well. Yeah.
I also heard that
my understanding of that is that's down to the configuration in the US of traffic lights. Generally, they put the arrow underneath the vertical stack of lights rather than to the right or to the left. And of course, in Australia, it doesn't recognise them not in a line, but it's learning.
I also heard that it'll actually interrupt.
Fitzgerald Street, if someone wants to try a vertical stack of 4 lights, corner of Fitzgerald and is it Newcastle?
Yeah.
There's one of those lights there if anyone's got too much time and wants to get out of the house.
We're going out that way tomorrow. We'll have a look.
Because the median is so skinny that the lights don't even have their black side bits.
Yeah.
So it's just a stack of 4 lights with the green arrow on the bottom. But something else I also heard that the cars are doing in the States is, I think they said when the car is 600 feet from the lights, it'll tell you, can I still go? And you've got to say yes. Then it gets 300 feet and you've got to do the same thing, even if it's green. And then when it gets to 100 feet, you've got to repeat the same process. So you're basically telling it 3 times as you go through the intersection or approach the intersection that it's actually still okay to go. But obviously that's just using all the drivers as training tools for their development.
There's just a question about the
Go on, Martin. Was that Martin?
Sorry, yeah, just a question about the older model S's. I've got a 2015 model. Anything through about upgrading batteries or upgrading screens and all that sort of stuff? I know a lot of people have had problems with their screens for the skinny it in. The early models, replacing them with the latest, but
there's a new version of the MCU. Yeah, there's a new version of the MCU that Tesla have done, and they are fitting them elsewhere in the world, or there's been at least one fitted in Hawaii that everyone knows about, or that's been publicised. So you can do that, Martin. So hopefully before your screen dies, you'll be able to replace it or upgrade it with the new one, which Tesla assure everyone won't die anywhere near as soon. But on their website, it actually said global availability was May. But we've had a couple of members make bookings, and Tesla's answer at the moment, Perth Tesla's answer is well, we don't have that as an item yet, and we don't know when it's coming, even though the parts obviously exist and they are standard parts, but they're just not available yet. But that will be an upgrade that the older S's and X's can get. Model 3s doesn't apply. You guys have all got the latest, greatest. As far as the battery, Martin, that still hasn't been discussed yet as far as an option, and it would be a very compelling option, but you've got an 8-year warranty on your battery. So if anything badly goes wrong with it, they will change it over. But then I have heard they actually change over with remanufactured packs. And there's been some complaint that there's one guy over east that got a remanufactured pack. It was actually dated older than the one he had.
No, it wasn't. He's
wrong. Was he was a sticker?
Can I snip that one in the bud? I know Michael, and I've had a couple of chats with Mike. He's grumpy about the pack that he got because he thinks it's older than the one he had, but it isn't. It's just that, you know, he's been doing a bit too much reading on TMC and making some guesses about that. However, you know, that's not to downplay his issue. He had one of those. He has a commute that is at the very range of his range, and after the same battery adjustment that Rob had and other 85 kilowatt hour packs had, his range dropped below his commute, so he couldn't actually complete it anymore. And so they offered to replace his pack, and his pack is now making his commute again, but it's also got slow supercharging, so there is some ongoing issue there. But that's something that all of our new owners don't have to deal with, hopefully. But yeah, Martin, just to address that issue, there isn't at this point a pack upgrade. There's various bits of conjecture about the Tesla's announced battery day, which was originally meant to be May 1st, but because the factory shut down and because of coronavirus, and possibly because Elon's just had a baby, that has been delayed. They're hoping for late this month, and there's various conversations about what might come out of that in terms of batteries and battery upgrades, but we don't know. At this point, the official position is there isn't a battery replacement program, an elective one.
Just for my 2 bobs worth, Martin, I had a 2017 Model S MCU failure about 6 weeks ago, and that was a bit scary. No parts in the country, COVID shut down transport, and but for a lucky shot with the apprentice found one in the shed, I'd be potentially still off the road. So as it was, off the road for about a week, and the part that had been ordered out of the US had not been shipped at that point. So all rather sobering.
How much was it, David?
Gratis, nada. So
under warranty.
Warranty, and other than a week off the road, got to make good use of my bicycle. The boys did their best, but it was an older MCU. wasn't like for what I think I ended up with potentially a new one. I'm not actually sure, nor do I know how to figure that out. But it took them 36 hours to progressively install the software that got it up to date. So it did the job.
There is a way to know what type of MCU you've got. If you go into your menu, the main menu, and then click the button on the bottom, which is software, then there's also an entry that shows, is it other car features, Ken, or something like that? It's and it'll tell you whether you've got a Tegra, I think it's Tegra MCU, or the Intel one. If it says Intel, you've got MCU too. But I mean, it'd be awesome if you did get that, but I somehow doubt it.
It's pretty unlikely.
It sounds I'm sitting in my car at the moment. I don't know if you noticed, but I've got a new Model 3. So it's Intel Atom. So that's obviously hardware 3.
Yeah, all Model 3s have MCU2 and Hardware 3. The other easy way to tell is if you open the web browser and just go to a site like teslatap.com/MCU, it'll interrogate from the website and tell you what it is. But yeah, if it comes back and says it's an ARM, then it's an MCU1. And if it comes back and says it's a 64-bit Intel, then it's a new one.
I just want to have a quick chat about the MCU.
Yes,
Can
Rob.
you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so from what I understand is there's a 2-month waiting time to get a replacement MCU if it fails in Australia at the moment. So for Martin, the best thing you can do is switch off any apps you got running in the background. Don't keep waking your car up. Turn your time charging off. So if your MCU fails, you can still charge the car.
Ah, right.
Because if your MCU fails, you won't have a car for 2 months.
Good news is though that they've got 3 Model 3s in Perth. So what you would do is, even though they're not officially loan cars, you would just touch Tesla and say, hey, I haven't got wheels and I need wheels. And there are 3 Model 3s that are here because of cancelled deliveries. I mean, they wouldn't probably want to give them to you as a loan car, but at least they can't say no, or they might have to give you an ICE car, rent one. Unfortunately, Tesla hasn't showered themselves in a lot of glory with the MCU one-up issues. We've had a couple of members who have basically have had to pay, is it about $3,000? I think something like that, to have their MCUs replaced. For instance, my car is a Model X. It's got MCU 1, and it's got a 4-year, 80,000 kilometre warranty. Of course, my car isn't 4 years until next year, but I've done 130,000 Ks in it, so I'm out of warranty. So if my MCU breaks, Tesla will invite me to pay $3,000 to get a new MCU 1, and that's not the upgraded version, that's the old version.
And that's a $58 part that's failing.
And it's actually a $58, if that's what it is, daughter board on the motherboard that's attached to the touchscreen, all of which are separable. But unfortunately, Tesla only sell you the entire assembly: screen, motherboard, daughter board. And that's why it costs $3,000 and not $58 or $100 fitted, unfortunately. But you Model 3 guys don't have to worry, because you've got your MCU is all good, and it'll last forever. Fingers crossed.
Well, in fact, any vehicle delivered after about March 2018 is going to be fine.
Oh yes, that's right. Sorry, yes. For other guys who got new S's or X's, yeah, you're all good too. Yeah, absolutely.
It's all of us early adopters. Thanks.
Well, we got Tesla the money so they could develop the awesome Model 3 and the even better Model Y that's coming, and the Cybertruck.
Can I have a chat about the Lake Grace charger?
Oh yes, go Rob.
Okay, so as some of you may be aware, we've got a fundraising page called, it's at chuffed.org. It's so far raised $57,000. Basically, the first charger, the DC charger, is going to go in at Lake Grace. The Shire there have been really helpful. They're putting $20,000 towards organising a site. Western Power have jumped in. Harold's going to bring up Lake Grace here at the moment.
Do you want me to bring up the Chuffed site, Harold?
Yeah, you might as well, Ken.
Very good, Ken.
Do you want to unshare?
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to bring up the location. Or is it on Chuffed, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll just swap over. Just hang on a sec.
Okay, while you bring that up, Harold, so the first charger, the DC charger, is going to go in at Lake Grace. There's already some Tesla destination chargers there at the Roadhouse. They've been very, very good to us. That Roadhouse owner was going to put the charger in at his Roadhouse, which is about 400 metres from the town centre, but he is such a good town person that he's happy for it to go in up in the town centre where the toilets are and where the post office is, in the Shire building. So he's done the right thing by his own town. With the Lake Grace charger, hopefully that will encourage the other towns on that road between Perth and Esperance get their act together and support DC chargers in those towns. So as we raise some extra money for another unit, for another tritium 50 kilowatt unit, Ravensthorpe or Williams or another town on that road will put their hand up and put some extra money towards it. John Edwards, did you have anything to say on this? You have to unmute yourself.
How do I do that?
I've done it, John. It's all right. You're good to go.
Righto. So I think Ravensthorpe is the next sensible spot, and I'm not sure what the politics with the Shire down there is. I'm getting feedback that they're just not interested. So, the highway to Esperance is pretty good, except for Ravensthorpe. So
Ravensthorpe does have a Tesla connector though.
Yeah, I mean
at the caravan park.
Well, yeah, it's got a 22 kilowatt Tesla connector, but most people can only charge 11 kilowatts there, and Model 3s can do 11 kilowatts. Everyone else 7 kilowatts. So, really a 50 kilowatt charger in Ravensthorpe would be the ideal completion of that highway. But I'm not sure. I'm just getting feedback that the Shire's not very cooperative. The power's not good there, and lots of issues. So, not sure where that's at the moment.
What was that fundraising website?
I just pasted it in the chat. If you can see the chat, it's chuff.org/project/EVHWY.
Okay, gotcha. Yep.
So for you guys that haven't driven from Perth to Esperance in your electric car, it's a great drive out there. It's going to take you, 7 hours of driving and probably 4 or 5 hours of charging. But it's an adventure. When you get into places like Ravensthorpe, charge your car up, go up to the Shire office and say, gee, if you had a better charger in this town, I'd spend a lot more money here. Because there's one in Lake Grace and I'm spending all my cash in Lake Grace. And when you get to Esperance, you could happily spend 2 or 3 days there, drive around, go to the Orleans Bay, which is a good drive. So Duke of Orleans Bay, sorry. So it's a good long weekend, or a 4-day trip during the week.
That's what we're planning to do as soon as we can.
And do you sit at 110 or 100?
100.
Yeah. If you go slower, because you're doing slow charging, it's actually faster to drive slower, unfortunately, until you get fast DC charging, and then it literally doesn't matter. But
I still don't do it. I still just drive faster and stay longer. Gives me more time to eat my cheese sausage and
That's exactly what we did when we went to Esperance. Yeah, 110 Lake Grace, 4-hour charge each way, and it's
110 with the odd burst up to 200.
You go past Arthur River and go to John's charger there, and best cheese sausage, the best chips in the southwest. That Roadhouse, they're fantastic. Those people, but
we've only had ours 3 weeks, so we're still learning.
Just a tip, guys: when you're driving these longer trips, don't do a 100% down to 0%. Stay in the same town for 4 hours. Split it up into smaller charging spots. You won't get so bored. Lake Grace for a first timer is a 4-hour town. That means you're going to lose patience after 4 hours. So if you're going to do it on the return trip, do 2 hours each way. Ravensthorpe's actually a nicer town anyway. So split your trip up 50%. Use half your battery per drive.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good tip for road tripping. It's there is a kind of a temptation if you've come from filling up with diesel and driving until it's empty, and then filling up and driving till it's empty, that you do the same thing. But that's actually one of the slowest ways to road trip. Your battery will charge much faster, between about 10% and 80%, and you might as well, you know, just top it up, drive as far as you can to the next one, top it up, drive to the next one. I did an awesome Albany road trip a few weeks ago and did exactly that. I stopped at the wool stores even though I didn't need to, but it's a nice place to stop. And then I stopped at Arthur River and then, you know, rolled into Albany with 20% left, and it was great.
It also gives you a plan B just in case the charge is broken for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Something
what's the
guys.
latest? Yeah, what's the latest on? Sorry, what's the latest on Tesla's next supercharger? And the second question is, when are we going to get a decent service centre?
I think both those questions have the same answer, and
perennial.
And the official answer is we don't know. There have been various statements to the effect that Tesla have signed a lease with somebody that have been rolling around for about 6 months, to the extent that I'm not certain I believe them anymore. But I suspect those two things will be coincident. When we get our new service centre, we'll probably get supercharger at the same time, and they'll probably initially be in the same location. But
someone was saying that there's going to be a mobile Tesla supercharger, a sleigh type of
Tesla have a single stall supercharger that they call a sled. It's basically on a pallet, and they can very quickly install it in locations. And their word was that we were supposed to be getting it over in WA, but when the bushfires happened, it got put as a backup in Victoria, which is a good thing. But what that has meant is it's never found its way here. So I don't think we're going to see the sled soon. There it is. Harold's just found a picture.
Oh, okay.
It's the frustrating thing too is, yeah, there are a few in Melbourne, and they're just not they're not bringing them over here, even though they certainly could. But yeah, be that as it may.
Yep.
The other thing, there was talk that Tesla were looking very hard with a service centre, and there was a hot rumor that it might be one of the old Holden dealerships, because they're all being given up. Or a lot of them are.
Yeah, too big, Harold.
Yeah, yeah, you're probably dead right, Martin.
Have too big a footprint.
Although I was talking to a Tesla employee probably 6 months ago, and this person was indicating that what they really want is some hard stand in the back, so they can actually use it as part of their delivery process for Model 3s. So they could possibly go a bigger site and just use it differently, because they really need storage space for Model 3s rather than using Auto Nexus in Canning Vale. But again, it's all just rumour. Oh, look, Ken's got a nice background of a proper service centre in that was the Centinela service centre in
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Yeah. But yeah, to pick up on that, yeah, I heard that one too from Tesla, is that the intention in Perth is to do an integrated service centre and delivery centre, much like the Delray one in LA. So service centre and delivery centre at the same location. So they're not looking for a teeny tiny location; they're looking for a larger one. But we don't know anything concrete yet.
I did speak to James when I saw him last week, and he was he gave me the impression that they were looking to sign a lease, on a new service centre fairly soon. But I couldn't get any more out of him. And when Joe and Seb were having their Model 3 delivered, I was chatting to the guys there and again probing about the supercharger, and they said, oh well, some Tesla employees had flown over to do some work, or they were in town at the time. So that was a couple of months ago. But yeah, until it's announced and happening, yeah.
A couple of us saw James dressed up in his Tesla best, trousers and nice shirt and all that sort of stuff, and a gentleman from Queensland who is He's the service manager for all the states other than New South Wales and Victoria, I think. But that was a couple of months ago. And I mean, perhaps that means it's hotted up. But I guess we'll find out probably after everyone else does, you know.
I reckon there's nothing wrong with the current service centre. You just show up there with a box of single fin and get anything done you want. It's not a problem. I reckon it's perfect.
Yeah, I know. I actually reckon it's fun. It's right next to Lock Street Station. Like, you know, if you need to jump on the train, I mean, you know, there's parking out the front. You know, they've got it pretty well sorted in there. There's 4 or 5 of them there now. So
I don't even make an appointment anymore. It's not hopeless trying to get it through on the phone.
Yeah.
I just show up and get it done.
I had a mobile service on Friday to do the HomeLink install, and that was great because he just turned up to my work.
Right, excellent.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was in Perth. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. The Model S.
We offered to
all
do
decked
my
out.
airbag recall via mobile service as well, but I had some other stuff to do, so I sent it in.
Yeah.
There's a Model S with a with a service technician livery generally outside the front of the government road place. So yeah, they must use it.
I've just put up on the chat the phone number for the service centre. It's a mobile phone that Adam answers. And we've been told that apparently if you ring it, you can basically deal with them directly until they say you can't.
That's who I organised the mobile service. I did it through the app, but ultimately Adam called me to sort it all out.
Yeah, the app can sometimes be a bit frustrating because it's difficult to get the information across that you want. And sometimes you don't get a reply, like you might make a booking for something you think you can have, only to find out days later that it's been cancelled because you couldn't. And it'd be so much quicker if you could just ring Adam and he can just say, look, I'll ask James. But we've been told that will work. But again, these things change. So it's deemed to work for the time being.
Ask John Edwards a question.
Which one? There's 2 of us here.
John without the H in his name.
Yeah.
John, tell us about your Targa charging device.
Sorry?
Tell us about your Targa West Targa charging device.
Okay. All right. So in addition to Performance Model 3, which we're entering into the Targa West Tarmac Rally event for 2020, which has all been delayed because of the virus, but is going to get up and running in August through to the end of the year. But to be able to complete that event, we need to be able to mobile charge the car, the Model 3. So my Kona's had some significant modifications done to it, and we've put a DC to DC conversion box in the back of it so that we can actually charge the Model 3 from the Kona's battery. So Kona's got a 64 kilowatt hour battery, so it's quite a decent chunky battery, and it will be running around getting itself charged up at whatever charging points we can find, and then going out and meeting up with the Model 3 and topping it up as it's preparing to do each of the legs of this rally. So yeah, that thing's up and running, and if anyone's interested, wants to have a look at it or have a charge of the Model 3, yell out and we can organise something.
Actually, just if you wouldn't mind, John, I'm looking at maybe trying to set up like a solar bank to charge my Model 3. I picked up 2.4 kilowatts of solar panels last week off Gumtree, and I'm looking at setting up something off grid to charge the Tesla. Is anyone else doing that? Does anyone know what sort of capacity they need to have to cover that?
I was reading an article on the web where Tesla's going to allow you to charge the car through the Powerwall, and it's going to be a config change. So basically, solar cells charge Powerwall charges your car, but they haven't released it quite yet.
One of the charging systems you can get hold of, which is what I reckon is one of the best ones with solar, is a thing called a Zappi. right? It's a single phase, or you get a 3-phase one as well, but most people got single phase. And what it does is you connect it to your solar, or connect it to 1 phase if you've got 3-phase in your workshop or office or home. And what it does is if you've got excess solar, which you're exporting to the grid, you can set it to divert that to charge your car. So it's you can get a type 2 plug. So what I do at my office is I've got 5 kilowatts here, and what it does is it charges the standby battery first, and then heats the water and does all that. And then when it starts exporting, it diverts to the Model 3. So I just leave the Model 3 plugged in and just waits for the excess, and the Zappy sends the excess to charge up the Model 3 and the Kona if that's needing charging as well.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's one, it's not mobile. It's kind of, you need to be connected to the grid for this thing to work, but it's actually, you'd be surprised just with 5 kilowatts of solar over 2 or 3 days, I'm looking for something to charge. Everything's charged, everything's full.
Yeah.
So
how much are they, John?
You can buy them on, I think they're pretty much like $1,000 or $1,050, something like that. You can get them out of Evolution or somewhere in Melbourne online. They're about the same price. And any kind of electrician can install it. It's pretty simple.
And what it can do is actually do what this graph is showing.
I do that.
Which is, you'll see the green is actually the total production, and then the grey is how much your house is sort of using. And basically, the Zappy will follow the production of the solar as it charges your car, and then turn off once it gets to a certain threshold.
Oh, okay.
Is that ZAPPY? Is it?
Yeah, I do that manually.
Yeah, look, just the installation. The only really tricky part about it is that there's a CT, which is a little coil that's got to go on your export line, right? So the electrician has to locate that in your board somewhere, put that little CT around it, which is it's an open and closed one, so it's not a big deal. You just put that on, and he's got to run some wires from that to wherever. So the Zappy needs to be located reasonably close to your board, and then it's just connect to the power. You've got 3 settings in there. You got maximum power, which if you want to charge fast, you just press it onto maximum, and it'll charge it 7 kilowatts, single phase, just flat out, if that's what you want. Or you can have partial eco, which is a combination of that and using some solar. Or if you just want to use solar and you don't want to use anything else, only uses excess solar, you put it on double eco or some setting like that, and it only charges the car when you've got excess solar. So it's pretty. I don't know anyone else has got one out there, but I find it pretty useful.
Yeah, I do that manually.
Yeah.
Well, you can do it. You can do it manually. You can do it manually, but it's nice to have something done automatically for you. I mean, you're going to pay $300 or $400 for a single phase charger anyway, so you might as well pay a bit extra and get the thing that does it automatically for you.
Yeah, John, where does it need to be located? Can it be near your battery? I've got a power wall, or does it have to be near the meter box?
You have to put this CT around your incoming exporting line of your facility. So the board, it needs to be probably within 10 meters or thereabouts of the board. You could probably put it further away, but then the line going to the CT resistance and all that might change. I don't know the technical details, but it's where the power comes into your premises. Is you have to put that current transformer device, and then connect that back to your Zappy. So you don't want to be 300 or 400 meters away. You want to be within 10, 15 meters of your board. Yeah.
Can I just say something? I've got a power, the wall charger, which you get with, can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I've got the wall charger installed. I've got a solar system with 6.4 kilowatt and a solar edge inverter. Now, with that inverter, what I've also got is I can see on an app exactly what I'm exporting, what I'm importing, And with that, of course, I can see when I've got excess power, I can switch the charger on.
Yeah.
And that little coil that you're talking about was part of the installation to get this app where you can see exactly what you're importing and exporting. So I've already got that coil in the meter box. Now, if you have a Zappi as well, does the wall charger become superfluous, or?
You need to add the CTs with the Zappi, so you'll be doubling up because the Zappi won't integrate with the other
wall charger.
But to answer the other question, yes, the Zappi is a wall charger. So it replaces the Tesla supply high power wall connector with its own wall charger.
Yeah, and I guess the advantage of the Zappi is that, like your normal wall charger will, if it's single phase, will charge at like 7 kilowatts or whatever it is, 32 amps or whatever. And if your solar system's only making 10 or 15 amps, well, then you're drawing from the grid to charge your car. The beauty of the Zappi is it only charges your, or you can set it to only charge your car to the export value. So it'll go right down to like 1.4 kilowatts, I think, is the cutoff on the Model 3. You know,
yes,
so
that's
you
right.
can, you don't have to.
6 amps, sorry. Single
Yeah,
phase.
so even if the sun goes down and you haven't got much, you're only charging 2 or 3 kilowatts, the Zappi will bring the current right down to the bare minimum. So you're getting that maximum usage of your solar. I'm not trying to sell it. I just, out of all I've got a ton of chargers and different things. I reckon this thing's the best of all of them when you've got solar, right? It does what you need it to do.
Yeah, the question I had is that, or I wanted to have confirmed, is that my wall charger becomes superfluous then, and.
Well, it will be a double up, right? Because the Zappi will be able to do what your wall charger does, because you can tell the Zappi to charge flat out at 7 kilowatts, the same as your wall charger. So you don't need that wall charger anymore.
Yeah.
Or you can sit and look at your graph of your solar system, and when you've got 7 kilowatts surplus, you can go outside and turn your charger on.
You can do it with your phone inside. We do that all the time because that's the only choice we've got. So we sit there with our little graph and we look at our little thing, and then okay, we can turn it off now.
I started off doing that too. I got sick of it, and I bought a Zappi, right, that does it for you.
We just had our the Tesla wall unit installed only a week ago, so we should have talked about this last week.
Well, we'll make do for the time being, but we will probably get a Zappi later on.
And don't forget, you got your wall charger for free from Tesla. So
right, but we had to get it installed. So there's we've incurred the cost, so we'll stick with it.
One pro tip: I guess a few of you guys have got 3-phase houses, and it absolutely makes perfect sense to have your wall connector hooked up to all 3 phases. Ironically, a more convenient way of using it, if you've got solar and you really do want to militantly dribble solar into your car, one thing you can do is just take off the 2 phases and connect it just to single phase, because then you can vary the current from, well, in your car you can do it from 5 amps to 30 or 32 amps.
32, I think, yeah.
That's right. And it means that you've got more dynamic range or more adjustment from the maximum charging rate, which is 7 kilowatts, all the way down to 1400 watts. You still have to do it manually through your app, so you've got to get your Fronius app or whatever if you want to do that militantly. Obviously, if you've had a HPWC installed professionally, you've got a proper 3-phase residual current device and a separate 3-phase miniature circuit breaker. So your house panel's full of breakers and whatever. But you could just get an electrician or yourself to basically just take off the 2 phases and use it in single phase mode.
Or you could just
notice.
not be that much of a geek and just not worry about it that much.
That's right.
I just back my 3-phase down to 7 amps, and that's 4.8 kilowatts, and that's usually enough, you know. And if you do sip a little bit from the grid, you know, it's not doing anyone any harm.
Shame.
Harold, while we're on the technical questions, Harold.
Yes, Martin.
I've got an ancient Tesla.
Yes.
And a Tesla wall charger.
Yes.
And a new one turned up for the Model 3. Now, unfortunately, I can't put the Model 3 one up because the house the power board can't cope with it, and well, I've got all sorts of technical difficulties of actually installing it. But what's the difference? Am I better off using the new Model 3 charger or keeping the old one?
Is the one you've got, does it have the ability to do the bridging where it can actually communicate with 2 units or up to 4 units? Does it have that? Or
it'll charge both cars, but
the new Tesla one does do multiple charges at once.
Yes, and I think maybe Martin, the one you've even got, even though it's old, might be able to do that. So you can still hook up the old HVWC with the new one, and you just need to get a figure-8 piece of wire. No, Ken, that's not going to work on Martin.
No, the original, is it, Harold, is you, Martin, if it's one of the original ones that doesn't have the hole in the side to hang up the cable, the old original single phase shiny ones, then no, it can't do that. But so I'm assuming it is that. It doesn't, you know how the new one, you can hook the Type 2 connector into the side of the box?
No, it's not that one, no.
Okay, then no, you can't daisy chain them together. They're different models.
But the next question is really, am I better off using the new one or the old one?
Neither. The old one is only single phase, so it'll max out at 7 kilowatts. The only advantage of the new one is if you've got 3 phase at home, you can take it up to 11 kilowatts. But if your house is only single phase, there's no advantage.
No, it's 3 phase.
Okay.
But it's 3 phase. So, well, Martin, you could hook up the new one to 3 phase. It means each phase draws less power on your S, but on the 3, it'll draw. Oh no, that's not going to work, is it?
So both cars will get 11 kilowatts out of the new one.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So no. The Model 3 is a single. No. Sorry. Yes.
The Model 3 is 3 phase capable. Yes. It'll draw.
Use the new one, Martin. Yes. Just if you can get an electrician to rewire the 2 extra phases, then you'll get faster charging if you want it.
Right. So I can get rid of the old one and put the new one in.
Yes. And you could even just look, and even if you just wanted to just have the new one and connect it just a single phase, it would still work as well. It'll work exactly the same as the old one, but it's just newer.
Except with the caveat that the old one did 40 amp single phase, where the new one only does 32 amp single phase. So you'll actually, if it's wired single phase, the old one will go faster.
On the S? Not
yes.
The 3. The 3 only does...
Make no difference on the 3.
Yeah.
Right.
Is everyone glazing over with all this technical conversation? Does anyone ask a question that isn't a heavily technical conversation?
Can we actually move on from from the Zappy and all that? Sorry, I know that this is continuing this conversation for people that may not be that interested. But what we had installed today was a new Solar Edge inverter that is actually a car charger. So it's a combination of a Zappy and an inverter. So we haven't got the cable for it yet, but this is where the cable connects to, and then in the so essentially it's just like their normal inverter, but you can also use it so that excess solar during the day. So we're going to have a power wall here as well. So it's going to power the house, then charge the power wall, then excess solar can then charge the car.
Oh, that sounds well.
And then at night, so we're on the smart home tariff because we mostly charge the car at night. So if the car hasn't charged with excess solar during the day, it then the inverter then also knows to start charging the car at 9 o'clock. So yeah, so that's just literally gone in today, and only about half the panels are up, but yeah, the rest should be done tomorrow. But so that's
Richard.
I think that unit itself, because I had a quote from a company in Melbourne at the time when I wasn't sure if the solar installer could actually get it, and I think it was about maybe $1,600.
Is that just the charging part or the entire inverter?
That's the entire inverter.
How many kilowatts?
Yeah, how many
Well,
kilowatts?
it's same as the Zappy. It will go up to 7 kilowatts single phase.
No, but the inverter.
Oh, sorry, it's a 5 kilowatt inverter.
So
single phase or three?
Beg pardon?
Single phase or three phase?
Single phase.
Right. So I think you need to have a single phase house to be able to install that, because Synergy won't like you.
No, it's only appropriate at the moment because they don't have a 3-phase version of that inverter yet. They've only got a single phase version of it. I think they're bringing that out. I think I read somewhere maybe towards the end of this year. So yeah, so that could well be a good option if you're going to be installing a system soon. Yeah, either single phase or 3-phase.
So just to be clear, is it $1,600 for the inverter, including the charger attachment?
Yep.
Wow.
That's cheap.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, they're a really nice solution. I've seen them installed elsewhere. If you're doing a greenfield solar build and you have an EV, and your single phase, they're a really nice solution.
We took all those boxes, so we went for it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If I share this screen, yeah, the Solar Edge, it's kind of a neat little box. There's a better picture of what was behind Richard's head. But no, I've heard really good things about them. I know someone else who's had one installed. And so yeah, if you're doing if you've got a new location and you're installing solar from scratch, they're a really nice solution.
The 7.6 meter Type 2 cable as well, and apparently only 12 of those got imported into Australia at all. So, so that cable is going to probably be with us at the end of the month. Yeah. So, but no, yeah. Once all that's done, then you know, if you're looking, it means that you don't have to get an inverter and a Zappy. Yeah, and it's all integrated in one app. So.
Yeah, 3.6 to 6 kilowatt. There's 3 or 4 different versions of it.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's a 3 kilowatt and a 5 kilowatt at the moment on the website.
Yeah.
So we've gone for the 5.
This is a 3 kilowatt.
So have we got any questions that aren't charging related?
Yeah, I've got 3 things that.
Yeah, go, Marcia.
Yeah. First of all, back to somebody mentioned about the fob not being available in Australia. I tried to buy some floor liners as opposed to the floor mats, but I found out they weren't available. This is for the Model 3. So I had to be content with the floor mats, which are carpet. I wanted the ones that you didn't have to vacuum. So I couldn't get the floor liners. So that's just one thing. Another thing, yesterday was a bit cold, so in the car I put the aircon on to 25 degrees, and on my 20k journey, which the day before had used 18 kilometres of power, I found with the heater on, it used about 40 kilometres. So I wondered, is that normal?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally
so the short answer with that is with every current
down.
Tesla, the heater is a resistive heater, and they chew lots and lots of power. So the standard tip for cold mornings is use the seat heaters, because they're significantly more efficient than the climate control.
Okay, handy.
Yeah,
great.
that's what I've done. I've started using the car seat heater instead of.
My kids get in the car, and the first thing they do is turn on the seat heaters to what they call 3 sausages. You know how it's got it's got 1, 2, or 3 little red things. They put it to 3 sausage, and by the time where we're going, their bottoms are nice and warm, and it uses significantly less battery power.
Excellent. Yeah. The other thing is I've came across the Tesla Fi website, so I purchased a year subscription of that because I thought it looked pretty good, and I find it's useful for tracking journeys and time of journey, how much power you've used, the efficiency, and so on. So I really like that. The other thing on it that you can see are all the different software versions and which cars have them, because it draws information from Tesla itself. So has anybody come across that website, Teslafy?
Yeah, I find it brilliant. It also reminds me if I've left my windows down when I leave the car.
Yeah, yes, it's integrated with your, but you have to be careful, I think, that you don't have it polling or taking information from your car all the time, because then it doesn't go to sleep and it's more, you use more power.
Yeah, I've just quickly obfuscated a page of Teslafy of my car for today. It's really quite handy. So yes, I don't think I'm giving anything away, but yeah, it's kind of nice. It does show you all the trips you've done and your usage, and of course it was quite high today because of the weather. But yeah, I've used that a few times. It's kind of nice. But yeah, you're right. It does have the potential to keep your car awake, which if you are worried about that kind of thing, you can set modes within Teslafy to tell it to go to sleep at night time and not pull your car during the night. And the only risk is that you miss out on some data if you go for a drive late at night or early in the morning. But I haven't found it drains that much from the car. I don't tend to put my car to sleep and turn off 100% access and all that sort of stuff. But yes, it does have the potential to draw a little bit more current.
Can you tell me what it has? These, driving, sleep, and idling mode. What's the idling mode? I mean, it should be self-explanatory, but I'm not sort of quite getting it.
Well, the Tesla's onboard computer, obviously when you're driving, it's working at full power and very efficiently. When you park, it switches into what it calls idle mode, which still runs all the systems and keeps the communications back to the back end alive and all that sort of stuff. The distinction between that and sleep is that when the car goes to sleep, it actually stops communicating back over the air to Tesla. So you have to actually go and wake it up. So how that relates to Teslafy is, while the car is in idle mode, they can still poll it and get information and find out what it's doing. But once the car's gone to sleep, they can no longer get that data. But of course, in sleep mode, it's not using up any battery power.
Thank you. So when Sentry mode's on, the car would be idling, wouldn't it?
Correct. Yeah, Sentry needs the computer to be on.
Yeah.
And that's quite thirsty too. If Sentry mode is on. So if you've got your car in a garage, you should set Sentry mode to be off at home, and you can also do the same at work.
Yeah.
And also your favorites, I think, so that you don't burn it actually uses a fair bit of energy over a 24-hour period if it's on the whole time.
Yeah, Sentry drives both computers. It uses both the autopilot computer and the MCU, whereas idle, the autopilot computer is asleep. So actually Sentry is using more power than idle.
So how do you actually put a car to sleep? So when I come home, I park the car in the garage. I suppose I press the park button and get out. And then I hear the beep that it's locked itself. How do you put it to sleep?
It depends on settings. There's a setting in the car called Always Connected. If you have Always Connected turned on, the car won't actually ever go completely to sleep. But if you'd like to save your battery, like if you're in a cold environment and you're on a longer road trip, if you turn Always Connected off, then once the car's been idle for about 15-20 minutes, it'll actually go to sleep and shut the computer down because there's no need to stay connected.
And you can do that from the Teslafy app. Yeah.
You can. Teslafy doesn't always succeed in forcing it to go to sleep, because if you've got some settings turned on the car that require it to not be asleep, and the three main ones that do that are leaving Always Connected turned on in your communications, and also if you've got cabin overheat protection enabled, which in Australia in summertime is a good idea. It requires the MCU to keep running to do cabin overheat protection, and I think there's a third one that keeps it awake. I can't now remember.
Sentry
But
mode.
those two are the key ones. If you've got cabin overheat turned on and you've got always connected turned on, the car won't actually ever go to sleep. It'll stay awake all the time. But if you turn those features off, then after a period of time, the car will go to sleep and basically draw no current at all.
What about scheduled charging, Ken? Would that keep it awake?
It doesn't need to keep the MCU awake for scheduled charging. No, it'll. There's actually another little computer that does that. That just has a clock in it, and it wakes the MCU up.
Greg, you've got your hand up. I just realised. Is that supposed to be up?
That was for the question I asked a while ago. So
sorry.
I did that about an hour ago. So all answered. I said, I'll drop my hand.
Okay, sorry.
Cheers. Thanks.
Martina, you were talking about one of the questions you asked there. This is relative to this. On the Model Y is a terrific car, and one of the things it's got is a heat pump, which the Model 3 doesn't. And eventually, the new Model 3s that will come out will have this. And that means when you heat your car, it's going to use far less energy. Obviously, not your car, but if you ever buy one in the future.
Okay. Well, seeing I've just got this one, I think that'll be a while yet.
Yeah, you'll be good. Just wear a jacket sometimes. But the heat pump system, I'm surprised they didn't put it on the Model 3 because they had it on the Jag I-Pace 2 years ago.
Yeah, the heating system in the Tesla, in the old ones, or the Model 3s and S's and X's, is just like having a bar heater in a house compared to a reverse cycle air conditioner. So the energy use, I think I clocked mine at about 11 kilowatts of heating effort, which is huge because if you drive your car along, you'd be using about 16 kilowatts doing 110 k's an hour. So you can easily get half the efficiency with your heater going flat strap. I mean, one pro tip you can do is you can preheat your car with your app. So a bit like me, I'm a bit of a range freak, so I like to get like my lifetime efficiency on my Model X is 193 watt hours per kilometre, which I'm sure, Richard, what's your S like?
I mean, the best I'll get really is 200.
Right. So I'm a bit of a range Nazi. So I'll do things like not have the air conditioner on as hard in summer, and especially in winter, just don't turn the heater on. Just don't use it because it really chews the juice. But what you can do is before you hop in the car in winter, is just preheat it. So use your app, and you can turn your seats on now. I think you can turn the seats on, and you can turn the air conditioner on.
On the assumption that you've got it plugged in to a charger.
Oh, well, even if you don't, you will lose range, but it won't cost you your efficiency.
Yeah, but the point is, if you're plugged into your wall connector in the garage and you turn the aircon on remotely, it'll use shore power to run the aircon rather than the battery. So it'll draw the power from your wall charger to heat the car up rather than consuming battery. So on those really cold mornings, if it's outside in the garage plugged on, just jump on the app and set your climate control to 20, and it'll use grid power which is cheaper to heat the car.
Really, isn't it though? When for commuting around the city, the range that all of our cars have is more than enough. So it's only really if you're on a road trip, you're not sure if you're going to make it, you might want to turn the heater off and use the seat warmers. But I think after a while, you ignore those sorts of things and just enjoy the car. So
yeah, absolutely.
Notice, Martina, as you have the car longer, you'll be more confident with the range, and you won't even probably worry about it, I would say.
Yeah, that's at the moment. I'm getting a bit scared when it goes around the 200 kilometre mark. You know,
worry when it gets to 2.
When my commutes are only 20. You know.
Yeah. I had my car, Martina, down to 2 kilometres of range displaying on the screen. I was I was on a bit of a road trip down near the Eaton supercharger, and I was relying on that to come home, and there was a bushfire and all the power was out at Eaton.
Oh no.
But I had a friend's place to go to, so I probably had 30 or 40 k's of range, and I went to Eaton, the power was off, and I said, oh, that's no good. had a friend in Australind, went and visited him, hung around for a few hours, then went back to Eton when the power was back on, and got down to 2Ks. So that's the closest I've ever been, or I'm willing to go. But it's
No, I don't want to get like that. Yeah.
the city driving anyway.
Harold, I won't mention that my Model 3, since I've had it, is the 139 watt-hours per kilometre.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and that's with doing nothing. Like, I don't even think about it. I turn everything on. I drive wherever I want. So
I think
mine's 135.
I think the best I got was between Tennant Creek and Camberwell. Tennant Creek is in the Northern Territory, and Camberwell is in far west Queensland, and that's 471 kilometres. And my car has a nameplate range of 380. And I think I averaged about 158 or so watt-hours per kilometre. And after the 471 Ks, had about 20 kilometres left.
Yeah.
And there's no charges anywhere. That was just one long trip.
What
Which,
speed?
Rob,
What speed?
you've done that too.
Yes.
Oh, can't hear you. Couldn't hear that.
Called the Barclay Challenge.
Ah, yes, yeah.
Barclay Highway.
I also, Trevor, rocked up to Nyanyatara on 0, but it's just one of those
They can
things.
do it negative if they're brand new and the battery's in perfect condition, but I wouldn't like to try it.
Yes, there are those people that do see how many negative Ks they can get.
Yeah.
And
Good way to kill the battery and end up with a big bill a few years later, I think.
well, Steve Burrell, who is of the Nullarbor fame, he actually had to push his car, was it about 30 metres or so? It literally ran out, stopped, and he had to push it to the charger.
Wow.
You can actually charge the car up by having it towed.
Oh, yes.
YouTube video in Russia.
There's a fantastic YouTube video in Russia where they're towing it behind, it's just using like strapping behind a dump truck or something like that. It's an older Tesla, and you can see it's getting about, I think it's nearly 50 kilowatts of charge just being dragged along by the truck. So if you really are in the poo, you literally can flat tow these cars and they will charge up as if you were going down a big hill.
Don't do that. For our Model 3 charging problems, have this little platform that they can, we can just spin the tyres on to charge them up until we get a solution.
Like a reverse dyno. You just...
John would make
There's a YouTube channel called Engineering Explained, and he did exactly that. He towed a Model 3 behind a diesel four-wheel drive and did tests, with and without it and everything. And he found it was more economic to tow the Model 3 with the diesel car to charge it than it was to use the diesel to drive the same distance.
That's that YouTube link I just posted.
Yes. Well, actually, Johnny Edwards has worked that out with his, in Arthur River, the charger is actually, it's known as a charge pod. It's got a diesel generator connected to the Tritium 50 kilowatt, which most people presume that that's like the worst thing you can do. But it's actually, in my car, the Model X, even charging it with a diesel powered generator is much more efficient than even some of the most efficient petrol cars.
I think we worked it out on my S. It was about 6 litres per 100 Ks if running off a diesel generator. And that's a 2.2 tonne car. And my consumption was a bit higher than everyone else's. So probably everyone else is more in the 5s, which is pretty good. Sorry, Rob, I think your mic might be a bit quiet there.
Is it? We've got a link to that story where we did the charge pod test back in December 2018.
That was a good day. Thanks, John.
Yeah. Martina, another thing to improve your range is you've got to be OCD on your tyre pressures.
Oh, yeah.
Now, because it's been cold the last few days, your tyre pressures will actually go below 42.
Oh,
So when you're doing a short trip, if you're only doing 8 to 10 kilometres, your tyres won't have time to warm up. When you do a long trip, say you drive down the freeway 60, 70 kilometres, you'll have time to get heat in them and the pressure will go up. and you'll see your range improve.
Oh, okay.
So never neglect the tyre pressures. Keep them on 42. Don't be scared if it gets hot and they go up to 47, 48. It won't hurt them.
So I presume I haven't found that display yet, but I presume it's somewhere in the software, and you can see that on the screen.
Yeah, if you swipe the bottom right, just below where the car icon is, and where the windscreen wiper little icon, if you swipe that to the left, it shows up while you're driving, it shows up the tyre pressure.
It's interesting.
Thank you.
As one data point, I looked on my tyres to look at their maximum cold inflate pressure, and in my case it's 50 psi. And I'm not saying anyone should do this, but I actually cold inflate mine to 50 and get pretty good range.
What size wheels have you got?
20 inch, the standard 20 inch on the Model X.
Yeah, because I'm on 12s on the S.
Yeah. And I was driving in 40, I think the hottest was about 45, 44 degrees in November a couple of years ago. And my tyre pressures got up to 56, 57. But the point is, the maximum inflation pressure is the cold inflate, not the hot inflate. So it's perfectly fine to take your tyres, if you wanted, to their maximum cold inflate. I don't really know what cold is. I mean, obviously in Perth, cold is not as cold as Europe, but you know,
room temperature.
Yes, yeah. So the tyres are built to handle the, you know, whatever temperature they get to on the road. But yeah, 42 is great. But anything, you know, you can go anywhere. Obviously, the most common sense thing is to do what it says on the tyre placard it's on the driver's door. I think there's a sticker on the B pillar. If you want to just do the standard Tesla recommended pressures. But the tyre manufacturers will tell you that they prefer tyres to be harder. It's just that they just don't give as good a ride as when they're softer.
When you go to a car dealer, a non-Tesla car dealer, the tyre pressures will be softer because they want a nice, supple, comfortable ride. They're not interested in tyre wear, safety. They just want you to feel good in the car.
Yeah.
But Tesla have theirs at a good pressure.
Yeah.
So 42 on the Model 3.
I'm also running nitrogen in mine at the moment, just as a trial, because yeah, the temperature difference between cold and hot was quite high, and it does seem to have knocked it down. Haven't taken any real sort of, you know, empirical measurements of exactly what it is, but they don't seem to hit 50 as much as frequently as they used to. That's for sure.
So Richard, you're a scuba diver. You know that too much nitrogen makes you go around the bends.
Why do you think I dive?
Why don't you fill your tyres with helium, Richard? They'll be lighter.
Well, that would be the Trimex course on Saturday then. Getting to fill them up.
Do you have the blue tips on the how do you know it's still nitrogen? Like, don't they put a different coloured?
Yeah, it's green. It's like a metal cap with a green logo on it, I think.
How much does that cost, by the way?
Jack's Tyres did it. I think it's about, they didn't charge me for it because they were doing the tyres anyway, but I think it might be, it's either 10 or 20 bucks a tyre, but I had them topped off at Bob Jane T-Marts in Claremont, and he didn't charge me anything for that.
So is it something can you buy a bottle of it to top up?
Well, I think it would be, I mean, you know, because BOC gases would be, you know, they'd probably give you a, you know, 500 litre cylinder, which would cost you $1,000, you know, a month, or, you know, to rent it. So I don't think it's a really, a game really that you can, you know, have some in your corner of your garage. But yeah, I did ask, but then it just got really, messy and, you know.
Cool. Speaking of road trips, Rob, you might want to talk to something like this, which is something that you've done, Rob.
Well, that's actually your map, though, Harold.
Well, it's my map, but I'm just yeah. But you can speak to doing something like that.
Well, first thing, a trip around Australia at the moment is probably going to be a bit out of the question. I think New South Wales and Victoria still have some problems with infection rates.
We might have to just go down the guts then, Rob, perhaps.
Yeah, I think Northern Territory, South Australia have got a good control on things. If you want to do some trips within Western Australia, the only issue I think we're going to have is every man and his dog is going to want to go for a trip somewhere warmer this winter. They want to get out after being locked down. So the major roads could be very busy. A good trip to do is actually from Perth to Kalgoorlie and up through Leonora and Sandstone. It's quite an interesting drive through there. Very good roads. And if anyone has not been to the Sons of Gwalia mine, where Herbert Hoover was the mine manager, it's well worth the trip. So, Harold, can you bring up Leonora on there, on PlugShare?
Leonora, do you want to help me with that, Rob? Is that
north of Kalgoorlie?
North.
234 kilometres north of Kalgoorlie.
Oh, there it is. Let me just change the charger filter to probably caravan.
Yes. Okay, now I'm actually going to I'm doing a write-up on this journey. We did it 2 years ago. There is three-phase power in every town, but it's just not worth going through the process of explaining to people you want to use three-phase. You can do this trip on 15 amp caravan park plugs because each day there's only like 150 to 250 kilometres of driving. So overnight you can keep topping up your car. There's three-phase power at Kalgoorlie. It's really convenient. Richard Chapman used it back in January. Once you go north, just plug into 15 amps. Don't worry about chasing the Shire up looking for the three-phase power points. You want to enjoy your holiday. You don't want to be chasing up charging points. Leonora is the Sons of Gwalia mine is at Leonora. It's about a kilometre out of town. It is well worth the visit. You can actually stay in Herbert Hoover's mining house, the house he had built when he was a mine manager. It's about $150 a night to stay there. And he's right on the edge of the mine site. I'm serious. If you walk out, if you sleepwalk, you'll fall down that hole. So really well worth going for that trip. And not a lot of tourists go out there.
I think
I'm
Rob,
just
about that trip you showed me on Google Maps. You can actually see the house right next to the open pit. It's fascinating.
We're down south.
What's out that way too, just halfway between Kalgoorlie and Leonora, is the town of Menzies, which you would have seen on the map. If you head back if you head west from Menzies 50 kilometres, you come to Lake Ballard, where nearly 20 years ago they had and it's still there, a Festival of Perth exhibition on the lake, the Salt Lake, of all these sculptures. Some of you might have heard of them. I've been there twice. It's so yeah, just in from Menzies, 50 k's. It's a gravel road, but
Sorry, is it east or west?
It's west of Menzies, yeah. So in there somewhere, yeah, not so far perhaps. Yeah, so Lake Ballard, the sculptures in there's 50 sculptures in this salt lake. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Did you take the Tesla on the gravel?
Oh, this was a few years ago. I went 2004 and again in 2008. They're probably rusted by now, but there'd be some there.
So does anyone take their Tesla on a gravel?
I do. I've taken my Tesla Model 3 multiple times on gravel and farmers sort of sandy, hardish stuff. Went extremely well. Mine is long-range dual motor, so in effect it's four-wheel drive, but zero hassles other than there's lots of stuff.
Corrugations.
Yeah, I've taken my SR Plus out on gravel as well, and I've got the protective film wrap on the front. But yeah, no scratches other than on the film. So yeah, it's probably worth it if you're going to be doing a lot of gravel driving. But the car handles it just fine, and that's the the SR Plus with just the rear wheel drive. Not a problem on gravel at all.
So you recommend the wrap?
Yeah, if you're gonna be taking it on gravel, just get that the front bumper wrapped.
Okay.
You can also get your wheel arches done rather than getting the whole panels. If you're gonna be doing a lot of it.
Okay. Is there information about that on the forum?
There's a fair bit on Facebook if you're on the groups there. Otherwise, I can share info with you about that. No worries.
Yeah, no, I'll check on Facebook. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Oh, this is pretty cool.
That's just a salt lake near Hyden.
Beautiful.
And yeah, the cars do perfectly okay in the dirt. I mean, it takes a bit to clean them, but hey, who cares? They're not really ornaments. They're tools to be used.
Bit of an ornament.
Well, it's an expensive tool.
Well, it's only 3 weeks old. Come on.
Yeah, but don't be scared to use it. It's what it's there for. It's there to enjoy. You know.
That's what I reckon.
There is a double skin door filter, door rubber you can put on it because your inner door bits gets very dusty.
Yes.
But there is an outer rubber you can buy off eBay to give you 2 seals.
Okay.
So I've got an order.
Yeah, cool. Cool.
Okay, guys, I'm going to say good night to everybody.
Yeah.
Always, Stephanie. Take care. Good to see you.
See you next time.
Oh, just wondered, did anybody else get an email saying that their premium cellular connection was getting turned off for the next couple of weeks, and we had to subscribe to the new one?
Yep.
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 So the latest info on that I've seen is if you've got premium, it's free for your first year. If you've got an SR Plus, it's free for a month. But if you purchase before the 30th of June, it seems to be free for life. Everyone was expecting that only to be for the premium interior, so the dual motor versions. But everyone that a few people have checked who have SR Pluses who ordered in that first month, and it seems to be lifetime free as well if you ordered, between the 31st of May and the 30th of June.
Yep, I've got it.
Yeah.
I ordered my 3 last December and got it late March, and the premium lasts until the 18th of May.
Yeah, same as ours. Yeah.
Exactly.
Not really.
But, yeah. But I figure it doesn't give you much. Live traffic was only the functional thing that would have been of any use, but just looking up what people thought of that, it wasn't very accurate. So I'm not going to buy premium.
Can you
not in Perth, I don't think.
Can you tether your car to your phone, and will that get you some of the functionality back if you don't opt to pay in?
It's mainly for things like the entertainment, and didn't seem to be much to do with the actual car itself.
Yeah, the only thing that really affects is the traffic conditions. Everything else will just tether off your phone.
The live traffic, yeah. So it wasn't for the 3. I think it's probably different for other models, but not for this one.
Satellite view as well.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I've only ever used it once. I like my maps to look like maps.
Yes, it looks a bit confusing when it's just a satellite photo. Yeah. Cool. How much is it, by the way, if you have to pay for it?
$10 a month.
Yeah, something like that.
And do you get a discount for getting a lump of a year or something, or is it just a pay as you go?
Can't remember.
I think it's a pay as you go. Yeah, I got to go back into it and check.
Yeah.
But I'll post it on the forum.
Yeah, I think it's pay as you go, but there's no discount for going for a year.
Cool. Well, that'll teach you for having a new car. But I mean, hey, you can.
No, MCU won't die.
But you can play Cuphead and watch YouTube videos and Netflix and stuff.
While you're driving, yeah.
I mean, I took a photo where I was watching Netflix at Southern Cross, but I actually did it with an iPad Pro propped up against my MCU screen because that was the only way I could get it. Here's the information, Ken. Thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, the cutoff date was June 30, 2019, for when all cars, not just Model 3s, after that date. So basically, yeah. So if your car is post that date on July 1, 2020, you have to switch to
paying for it.
The weird thing is on there it says a standard range plus not applicable, but it is.
Yeah.
You get it free. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Have everyone picked up the price increase in the last couple of weeks?
The Model 3.
Well, Model 3 anyway, it's gone up 10%.
Yes. Yep.
Exchange rate.
Tesla don't hedge exchange rates at all, unlike apparently other manufacturers. So, you know, our dollar went down to 55 cents a couple of weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago.
Back up now.
It's come up a little bit, but it's still down on what it used to be. And yeah.
Oh, well, we had a win. That's good.
That's right. It's nearly as bad as when I bought mine in January 2017.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bad time with it.
Martina, with that Teslafy website, there's also stats for Tesla, a iPhone app, which is very good for the stats.
I use that. It's really good.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, we've got to go, everybody. So
Yeah,
thank you very much. That was very informative.
See you next
lovely
time.
to meet you. Yeah, good to hear everything.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about there, Rob. I can't remember what that was all about. Does anyone from Hyundai actually watch? Well, they wouldn't be watching this anyway. And it hasn't been hacked, Rob. It's been enhanced. And I suggest that that should be a new product for the RAC.
Yeah, that would be good.
We almost bought a Kona, and then I drove the Tesla. End of story.
Yeah, I actually ordered the Kona before it had a price, and I sort of guessed the price from the UK pricing. And actually, it was John Edwards that bought the Kona that I cancelled, because when I found out the price, I just went, no, that's just not happening, because it's high. And compared to the Model 3, I mean, the Model 3 is such a compelling offering.
Yeah, that's what our son thought too.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyway,
cool.
Thank you all for coming.
Cheers. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
See ya.
Right.
Thanks.
Harold, I've got some more to talk about, but should we leave it for another night, because this was pretty good?
Yeah. Well, I'm still recording, so we can put on pause if you like, and we want to talk some meaty stuff. Or I'm happy to keep chatting. I'm good.
2 hours. 2 hours is enough, and my bottle of white wine's empty. I have to go get another one.
Yeah, well, so do I. I'm going to get a refill myself. In fact, Rob, if you can hold that thought for just a sec, I'll get a refill. If that's okay.
Go and get your refills, guys.
Okay, all right. Just for 2 seconds. You just hang on. I'll entertain you in other ways. Yeah, while I'm away, you can just enjoy that awesomeness.
Yeah, we did the same as Harold. We ordered a Kona and we put a deposit down on it. And then when we found out the price, we go, nah, give us their money back, thanks. That's just ridiculous. Because the Model 3 was only a couple of $1,000s more. And it came with a charger. You had to buy one for the Kona.
That's correct, yeah. The Kona's probably $6,000 or $7,000 too much.
At least.
Joe, I noticed the last time you charged at Rockingham, you got it to work first time. You've got mute on, I think.
If you hold down spacebar, Joe, and then talk the spacebar down.
No.
No, you're muted now. No. That's it.
Yeah, not working.
Anyway, I'll continue the conversation. The Rockingham destination charger has been quite sporadic for the last 2 months. When we used it after you, Joe, we only took one reset, which is quite rare. Normally for us, it's 3 or 4 resets. And then Richard plugged in straight after us, and he got it to work first time. So I think it's got a faulty comms cable in the bottom. That's the issue with it.
Mm. I noticed.
I have never ever got it to work first time. I've done it on 1 reset, and sometimes 2, and the odd time 3.
When my wall charger went bad at home, I think it was the cable, because I noticed I had one of the first gen wall chargers. Tesla replaced it under warranty, and I was looking for differences between the two, and it actually had the specs of the cable printed on the side, and the conductors for the power were the same, but they'd put thicker like signaling conductors in there. So I assume that they break, and it makes the charger a bit useless. But I was having intermittent charging, having to reset things like that. But the new one's been good, so I guess I'll need a new cable or a new box.
One of the chargers at Riverton Forum had a similar thing, and I managed to actually get video of it where I could twist the cable and it would charge, and then you let it go and it would stop, and then you twist it and it would start again, and vice versa. And then eventually they actually changed the entire unit, which they obviously didn't have to do. It was just the cable. It was literally just a break in one of the control lines of the cable. So that is probably what yours exactly did, Trev.
I read some forum posts, actually. I think some people in the US that had faulty chargers, Tesla, the service center was just swapping out the cables, but probably over here, it's easier for them to just give you a whole new box and say on your way.
Yeah. So that's the one in Rockingham, Rob.
Yeah, the Rockingham one, it's sporadic, but I think Joe got it to work first time on Saturday.
So you're breaking up there a bit, Rob.
Yeah. Joe used it before us on Saturday, and she got it to work first time. We got it after 1 reset, which is very rare. Richard got it to work first time. So I think the comms cable is twisted inside it.
Yeah.
Off mute now. I'm working, aren't I?
Yeah.
Yes. You're all good.
Cool. So it was set up to my headset. It's my work computer. Yes. No, I've been going down there regularly, and a lot of the time it had been I have to do reset, and then like turn the things, and the kids are getting annoyed because they just want to go on their scooters, and so yeah, quite a lot of times it took a lot, and then it was just last week I think, and it was first time, and I don't know if this person's on here. I don't think they are. Someone called MK. I think it's Matt. What did he say?
No.
Matt someone.
No,
M is because it's Emily. Anyway, they messaged me on Plug Share and said, I seem to be a regular at the Rockingham one, and can I go and test it? And because he was also a regular there but didn't want to go if it wasn't working. And so between us, we quite kind of kept testing it, and he also said that yes, it has started working. There we go, MK, that one.
Yeah.
Person there. Yeah, and he said yes, it's been working since then, but only in the last week or so. See, there's so many green ticks now.
Yes.
So I don't know if anyone fixed it or it just started.
It might just be a bit temperamental. So Richard, you did it on the 2nd of May. You charged.
Yeah, it was fine. Plugged in. I don't think I've ever really had a problem with that charger. It works well with my car.
Yeah, Joseph had some issues in March. It's probably, and Rob, you had something in January.
Yeah, that was about the first time it started playing up. I went to the shop and I got it replaced, but they fiddled around with the plug underneath.
Yeah, it does get there eventually. That's why all of mine are green ticks, because I just stay there until it works. But then I do write in the comments why, how many resets. Sometimes I just lose count. There was one time it was 6 or 7 times I had to do the switch off, press the reset button. And I didn't really know what I was doing the first time.
Yes, you say you lost count number of times you had to switch it on and off.
Yeah, that was the one.
Yes.
And I was just about to go, but the kids were like not happy that I was going to go. So I was like, I'll try one more time, and then it worked.
That's always the way.
Yeah.
No, I have to use Rockingham more now because Nigel's throwing me off Baldivis.
What's wrong with Baldivis?
Nigel's throwing me off the Baldivis charger now.
So it's Nigel
not.
So I've been using that one a lot too. Or I was, because I was working from the Baldivis library sometimes rather than working from, because I work from home all the time anyway. But now obviously Baldivis library is not open, so. But that was quite good to go down there, plug in for an hour or so and do a few hours work.
Yeah, it's quite a useful one at the shopping centre because I only live just a couple of kilometres down the road, so I use that one all the time. But I can also plug into the J1772 because I've got the adapter cable for it, and that charges at 7 kilowatts, I think, rather than 11.
Yeah, which for you Model 3 guys is pretty good still. That's that's about 50 k's an hour.
Yeah, as opposed to about 80.
Yes, well for us S and X's, we get 30 k's from a J1772 or 7 kilowatts, 50 on 11. I get 70 on a 17 kilowatts, and Rob, who's got the best. Oh no, and you too, Richard. You've got the. Trevor, you got the dual. You guys get 100 k's.
Wow. Yeah. I think that the most I ever got was actually at the what's the place called in Kalgoorlie? I think Harold. I think you did you set that one up there or the view on Hannons?
Oh yeah, in Kalgoorlie, yes.
It was 120 k an hour, I think, and it was in the middle of the day when their solar was cranking. So
yes. I'll bring that one up. Was it View and Hannons or was it the actual city of Kalgoorlie Boulder?
No, it wasn't that one. That was good, but.
It's the other one. It's the View on Hannon.
It was Hannon.
No, sorry, I got the wrong filter.
No, it's not
you mean
one.
it's the hotel. Yeah. I know what the one. I know what
we didn't stay at, but I did ask if I could charge there, and she was like, "Yeah, sure, go for it." So, yeah, there you go. The View on Hannons. Yeah, 120 k an hour.
Did you notice that one of the chargers was broken?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and that's actually a bit of a concern because there's only one working there now. There's only one working at the in Merredin at the visitor centre. So
yes,
I think we're getting to a point where a lot of the dual sites are now,
single. Yeah.
For the Model 3 drivers, when you're in Merredin, it's better going to the rec centre and using the Type 2.
Say that again, Rob. You went.
For the Model 3 drivers, when they go to Merredin, it's better to go to the rec centre and use the Type 2 charger.
Oh, yes. I actually did that on my last trip. And it's funny because that's one of the EO chargers, and it sort of implies that you might have to use the EO app. And I tried to start it a couple of times, and all I did was just plug in and plug out twice, and then it was free. I'll bring that one up. That's a leisure centre, isn't it, Rob?
That's correct. Yeah.
That's this one here. Which are, you can see the two EO chargers. And what's different with this, it's a bit hard to see on this image, but they've actually got, these are both untethered chargers. So you normally need Type 2 to Type 2 cables, but they've actually added, and I think they use stainless steel cable to tether them to the pole. They've actually got their own patch cables. So they've got Type 2 to Type 2 for Teslas and the J1772 for other cars.
Wow, that's awesome. And is that 11? Are they 11 kilowatt?
22 actually.
Really? So I've been paying, whatever I'm paying, loads at the visitor centre, whereas I could go and plug in there for free.
Yes, well, I actually went to the visitor centre, and that's that one, and it was a Sunday, and they were shut. And what actually happened was, I think there's a photo of it. There's you, and I didn't actually take. I took a photo, but I didn't post it. I don't know if you can just see here. There's actually a padlock on the isolator switches, and someone had actually just snipped that padlock out, like they'd just broken the plastic on the isolator. So I just tried to turn it on, even though it was already broken, and it just didn't work. So then I went to the rec centre, like Rob said, and that worked. And the bonus was it was free. Whereas even though this is a Tesla destination charger, I think you have to pay, $11 an hour.
And that's $11 an hour is okay for dual charger cars, but if you've got an 11 kilowatt Model 3, you better go into the rec centre.
Yes. Well, in fact, the rec centre is free the whole time. So, you're better off doing that. But yeah, unfortunately, the visitor centre is shut on the weekend. And obviously this was during the school holidays that I went in January. When did you go, Richard?
Whenever that.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course.
Whenever that check-in was.
28th of February, by the way.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, I wanted to chuck a few dollars toward, into the visitor centre anyway, just to, to encourage them to fix the other side as well, because that right-hand side that you just pointed out,
it didn't work.
I think even though it has the padlock on it, or if that one's been snipped off, but it doesn't work. I did actually manage to get it working it worked for about 5 minutes, and then it crapped out because I thought, I've got it going, but no, it was still.
That's the other good thing to mention, is that you're much better off doing short hops and just topping up at each place, because let's say if nothing worked in Merredin, well then you'd find it difficult to get to Northam if you weren't sort of fairly well topped up at Southern Cross. So that's a good pro tip that I think Rob mentioned quite a while ago, was keep topping up, and rather than spending hours upon hours in one place and presumably getting there empty.
The reason we did that, because we had because it was my cousin and partner, and we had had a little baby in tow as well. But we stopped at Merredin for the longest time because we could do the little the walking tour. We could go to it. They're vegans, so it was difficult to find places for them to stop and eat, and I think we did look at where did we stop? Yeah, we didn't stop at Southern Cross. What's the Cora? Is it? No, not Cora.
Yeah, Cora Retreat, and there's also Cora Retreat. Yeah,
he was amazing. So that was an eventful stop anyway. So we kind of stopped at places that were good for them as well. I get your point. Lake Grace charging for 4 hours each way. we ran out of all of our episodes of Game of Thrones that we had down on the laptop. And it was Easter weekend, so nothing was open. So that sucked. But so hopefully that won't happen too much more.
Yeah, exactly. That's the Cora Retreat. That's quite a great place, isn't it, Rob?
Amazing. What a character.
I found that on Google Maps. I was zooming in and out looking for somewhere, and I found that place 3 years ago. Gave the lady a ring. It turns out we knew the guy. He's an Anglican minister, and he conducted a wedding we went to about 25 years ago. So he installed a Tesla destination charger and a 3-phase power point.
Right. He loves you, Rob. He couldn't stop talking about you.
He's an Anglican minister, but he does his own electrical work, own plumbing work. Everything is recycled. So when you go there to charge, you think you're going to be there for an hour, you end up being there for 4 hours talking about engineering.
Yeah, I think we were there for 3 hours, and that was about an hour and a half longer than we intended to be. But he gave us a tour of like the local, you know, all the works because there used to be the old railway line there, so there was a water catchment for for the steam trains, and he gave us a big tour out of that. And he's like a bushman of the outback. He's a classic. He's worth a stop, that's for sure.
Definitely. So Nigel, when are you going to do a country trip?
Yeah, we've been talking about it, but we've not got anything planned yet, and no idea when we're going to go anywhere.
Right, sorry guys, I've got to go. I've got a visitor.
Oh, cool. All right, Trev.
I'll catch up with you all later.
See you, Trev.
Take care, mate.
See you, Trev.
Bye.
But if we can get that installed down to Esperance, mightn't be a bad idea.
I'd highly recommend if they open the roads up within WA, and I think they may do it in a couple of weeks, I'd highly recommend going to Kalgoorlie and then going north.
I haven't been to Kalgoorlie for about, 20 odd years.
Yeah, it's worth it. You go north, then you go to Leonora, Leinster, and across the Sandstone, and there's not a lot of tourists go through there. The roads are very, very good.
So you're saying basically to Kalgoorlie, up to Leonora,
and then left and Sandstone. Sandstone's 16 people. It's a beautiful town.
Oh yes. Oh, nice car.
That pub's still open, yeah. Sandstone used to have 4 butchers and 4 pubs when it was plenty of gold there. Now it's just a beautiful little town. It's been kept clean. Mostly it's a place where the prospectors go in the winter time.
Cool, and that's just 3 phase, isn't it? Oh no, yes it is. Yes, yeah, 3 phase.
Which one? Oh, is that Leinster?
That's Leinster, yes.
Yeah, now Leinster's what you'd call a closed town. It's the mining company keep very tight control, but we just drove in to see what it was. We didn't really need a charge. We drove in to see what the town was like, and we chased up one of the Shire workers and we said, "Can we use the 32 amp 3 phase at the footy oval?" And she said, "Yeah, whatever." So I plugged in, just charged there for an hour while we had a look around town, and off we went. So you're not guaranteed to get 3 phase there, but it's worth just dropping in and seeing how nice the place is. Because the mining company makes sure it stays clean.
Cool. So for you Model 3 guys, you on your 15 amp tail, you'll actually get 12 amps, unfortunately, at the moment. Which is that about 15 k's an hour, roughly, or so?
Yes, 15.
Which overnight's 150 k's or 170 k's, depending on how long your night is. Tesla.
If they use my 15 amp Gen 1, what speed would they get?
18, 19 k's an hour. Actually, that was a point I should have mentioned before. The club's got a couple of 16 amp 3 phase UMCs, the old style portable charger that's got a 32 amp plug connected to it. And that'll get the Model 3's 11 kilowatts, which is more than you can get on anything else. And that's great for any of the 3 phase stuff out there. But Rob, you're right. We've also got an adapter that'll go from 15 amp single phase to that UMC and get you the nameplate 15 amps from a caravan socket, which will get you your 18, 19 k's an hour, which overnight is not too shabby.
Yeah, I think the Model 3 will get a genuine 20 kilometres an hour. So over 12 hours, that's 240 kilometres of range. That's pretty handy.
We've actually also got. I'll just share this quickly. It's on our website, and we've actually got this adapter. It's not zoomed in, but this is actually a 32 amp 3-phase plug connected to the other end of a Tesla standard, the new style UMC connector, and this will get you 30 amps single phase from a 32 amp 3-phase socket. And that will get you basically 50 k's an hour. And that again is something that you can borrow free from the club for a road trip.
Can I ask where the tyre is actually kept? Because I sometimes hope to borrow it at very short notice.
Yes, it's kept at my workplace in Malaga. So you can just send an email to secretary@tocwa.org.au and you can just borrow it. Provided you've got you got the aero wheels. You got
the aero wheels, yes.
Yeah, non-performance, right? Yes, yeah. And in that case, you can absolutely borrow that anytime you like.
For planning, can I have the name of the business?
It's Netrol Systems. It's NEATROL Systems.
Harold, is there a list of what is kept there? I can't remember what we've got.
No, that's something that Ken and I are going to be working on to get a definitive. Stop grinning, Rob. That's homework. We do need a definitive list because it's actually quite comprehensive. We've got a juice booster.
Really?
The kilowatt for the JP John Paul, who went round in a Model 3, in the red Model 3.
Yeah.
We lent him that from Perth, and he took that all the way to Melbourne. That saved him a lot of time because the charger he had wasn't configured properly, so he wasn't getting the same charge rate. So we've got a juice booster. We've got 2 old style UMCs that'll do 11 kilowatts for a Model 3 or SMX. Got 2 of those. We've got that adapter that I just showed with the for Model 3s with the new UMC, the second generation UMC. That'll get you 30 amps single phase. We've got a spare Model X tyre, a spare Model 3 aero tyre. We've got a jack, a puncture repair kit, the slug thing. Oh God, and type 2 to type 2 cables. So for people who haven't bought them or don't want to spend the money. We've also got it's at least a 15 meter 32 amp 3-phase extension cord. We've got a 20 amp adapter, so that I think it's Pardue Roadhouse and Northam, I think.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, Northam's 20 amp as well.
It's got 20 amps. We've got that adapter. And probably a few other things I can't think of right this minute. So yeah, we are going to definitely get a definitive list and try and do like an online booking system so that you can just you can just log in and book what you want.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
So we've actually got a big portfolio of loan items for people to use.
Because I've still got the 3-phase wall connector that I intended to that I bought off of. I can't remember now, but and I was going to put the tails on there so I could use it as a portable charger, like when I borrowed Robin's from doing the Esperance trip. But if there's the juice booster available for road trips,
yes, absolutely, yes.
Then I could think about what to do with that 3-phase wall connector.
Yeah, look, a lot of people have gotten either a spare HPWC, the high power wall connector, and put a plug on it, or some people have recommended that people with the one they get from Tesla just put a plug on it and then get an electrician to install a socket on your wall and just plug that in. And then when you go on a road trip, take it with you. And on the one hand, that's kind of a good idea. By the way, in New Zealand, that's illegal. They don't allow an EVSE, a charging equipment, to be plugged in. It has to be hardwired. But
I'm surprised that we allow it.
Sorry?
I'm surprised that we allow it.
Yes, so am I. And as Rob has found out himself, where were you, Rob? Was it Halls Creek? Can't hear you, mate.
Fitzroy Crossing.
Fitzroy Crossing. It's funny because I was at Nedlands with James at the service centre, and I got a phone call. I've got a phone call from Rob asking about the HPWC, or about the charger. Oh, it was the UMC actually, because his HPWC had stopped working, and we're trying to work out what's going on. But yeah, because he had a spare one, you got a spare one, didn't you, Rob?
Yeah, I bought a spare one really cheap, brand new. So I was prepared to take the risk that it would break. And
yeah, so
2 years.
He kept it in his frunk for years, and it just rattles, and it's not built to be a mobile device. And unfortunately, it kind of failed at the worst time. So it can be done, but it probably shouldn't. And look, if you're a member of the club and you can just borrow the juice booster if you've got dual chargers, or just borrow an old UMC that gives you in a Model 3 or a modern car, the full 11 kilowatts, just do that instead.
It's also got a nice user interface, whereas the high power one's got the internal switch you've got to rotate if you want to protect the current coming out.
Yes, yeah, and it can be a bit naughty. That's the problem. People get cacophonies of adapters, and they're in danger of pulling too much current, and it's a bit questionable. But
yes.
The UMC is good because it basically will only draw 16 amps 3-phase, and that's it. So as long as that's connected to a 32 amp plug or a 20 amp plug, it's pain free. But yeah, we'll probably mention that on the next meetup, which unfortunately will no doubt be Zoom again. Just as a reminder of all the adapters we've got, because obviously a lot of people aren't aware of all that stuff, and the unfortunate thing is, with the Model 3, with the new UMCs, you plug in your 10 amp outlet and you only get 8. And you plug in your 15 amp adapter and you only get 12 amps. And yet apparently when Tesla first brought out their Model 3s for the press cars, the reporters complained that, it was a slow charging rate, and Tesla actually re-flashed those adapters and got the nameplate 10 amps and 15 amps. But that's something they haven't done to everyone else's adapters.
I thought it was due to the efficiency of the unit.
No, it's in America, all plugs are derated if they have continuous use. So if it's a toaster, it can draw the full nameplate current. But if it's a longer term, and I don't know what longer term means, but if it's a continuous load, they have to derate the load by 20%,
yeah.
which is why the 10 gets 8 amps and the 15 gets 12. But in Australia, that's not the case. So they've kind of made a mistake and haven't yet gotten around to fixing it.
It's fair enough too. I mean, most modern houses in Australia, the plugs are really good. But if you go to some of the caravan sites and old places up north, some of the power points are really dodgy. And if you start plugging in and drawing the full 15 amps from a caravan plug, it's gonna trip off. If they've bothered to put a breaker on the bloody thing.
Trip, or it starts to melt due to the heat or the poor contact.
That's right. There's some pretty dodgy stuff. I went to a place called Hamlin Pool in Shark Bay, and they had a brand new generator, but because of the salt and the heat they have in that area, the actual power system they had was disgraceful, and it was probably only 20 years old.
One good thing about the Tesla adapters, the new ones, is in the actual head of the plug, they've got an electronic temperature sensor, or a digital temperature sensor, which actually made it difficult for me to actually adapt. So in that adapter I've done, that one you can see here, that's actually a NEMA 1450 tail from Tesla that I've had to cut the sensor out of and graft it into the Clipsal plug. So it's not trivial to do. But the good thing about it is it actually checks the temperature of the plug itself. So if there was like a bad connection, which is where it happens, and it starts overheating, it will then shut down. Well, it'll tell the car to draw less power until it cools down. In fact, Rob found that on the old generation UMC, the Universal Mobile Connector. And was that fit? No, that was Fitzroy Crossing.
That was a Fitzroy. That's why I said it was starting at 16 amps, 3-phase, and it was dropping the charge rate as it got hot.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the chip fryer inside the Roadhouse.
No, and it was actually in that case, there's actually a sensor in the head that plugs into the car, and because it was out in the sun and getting hot, it was actually shutting down the charging. So I just told Rob, just shove a towel over it, or just give it some shade, and it'll cool down. And that did work, didn't it? Later on, Rob, it
slowly went up. It went from 11 up to 14, because the car park was really dark, asphalt, no shade. And it got extremely hot there. So we got enough charging to get to Halls Creek before it got dark.
Yeah, cool. So, yeah, that's just some of the things you come across when you're going on long road trips, where you start finding out all these interesting things that you didn't know about before. And yeah.
It's part of the adventure. Yeah. Now, I was going to say, even though we've only got 2 committee members here, we had